Use of launching. And 30.
All right, the board previously met in closed session under exception C1, C2, C11, and C21. If I can have like to call to order the May 24th, 2022 Waukegan Public School Board of Education meeting. If I can have a roll call, please.
Mr. Riddle.
Present.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak.
Here.
Mr. McBride.
Present.
Ms. Gonzalez.
Here.
Ms. Hannah. Ms. Leguizamo.
Present.
President Ewing.
Here. We do have a quorum. I would like motion to go into open session.
Second.
Motion. We got a. I'm sorry. Who motioned? Ms. Wozniak.
I second.
Second was Ms. Leguizamo. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. All right. We are back in open session, and I'm going to ask Coach Ashlaw if you'd be so kind as to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So for my president's report, I do want to, and it's kind of, I don't have my presentation. I left my laptop at home, so I do apologize because there was actually a lot that I had on there. But number one is I talked with Jack Benny Middle School during their commencement about how our students and many students around the nation came together and organized after Sandy Hook. And unfortunately, I have to ask for a moment of silence for yet another school shooting in Texas. So if you will please give a moment of silence for the lives that were lost. Thank you so much. Moving right along, it has been a busy week, a couple weeks in District 60 as we race to the end. And what I will say is that for our students, school has officially ended. And I want to thank everybody for all of their efforts for this school year. Thank you to my board members because I know it has been, I said it jokingly, but my wife last week asked me, when will I see you? It was Sunday, and I told her Sunday because there was absolutely something every night. And so that is the dedication that I see from this board, from committee meetings to attend the needs meetings, from going to schools, from answering emails, talking to people on the phone, the amount of hours that you all put in. And so I want to recognize and thank you for that service. I also want to congratulate all of our graduates. We had tons of graduation celebrations, including my own little guy who was promoted from kindergarten, and so excited for them and wish them nothing but well as they move up into new grades or leave us and go out into the world. I also want to, maybe at this point, a couple months ago, there was talk and conversation as it related to making sure that we made sure our frontline staff felt valued. I made a promise and a commitment. One, I did it in January. I did it again before spring break. And then I did it again at that meeting where I told one of our teachers and staff members and community members that were present is that we do see the efforts of our frontline staff and we would do something to recognize them. The board did live up to that promise and is on our agenda later today. I know that it has been a very tough year. It's been a tough year in our world. It's been a tough year in District 60. Everybody cares. Everybody is doing what they can. Yet we all recognize that we also need to do more and that we have to do better. And so while it may have taken a little bit, I appreciate all of those who are helping to get it across the finish line. And because I don't have my presentation, I won't belabor the point. I'll speak when we come up to that agenda item. But I did want to say thank you to all of our staff for everything that they did this year. With that, we're going to go right into our student board member report.
Is it on? Yeah. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to take this time to say a quick message and recognize all the administrators and students who worked hard this year post-pandemic, since it was definitely a challenging year. I want everyone to take a moment and thank themselves for putting in that hard work and pushing through the end of the year. I don't have an official report due to trying out for sports, volunteering at elementary school field days, and studying for finals and exams. So I just did want to say that I am excited to mention that I've been working on planning things for the beginning of next school year, and I have already started to structure some of these things. That's all for today. Thank you.
And when I say the board members put in hours, that includes our student board member who sits in these meetings, sat with us at many of those graduations, and continues to not only make sure that she's a voice for our high school students, but also has extended the role to make sure that she's a presence in our middle and elementary schools. So we thank you for your service, Ms. Gutierrez.
Thank you.
All right. We are now at special recognition and presentations. In our first special recognition and presentation, there are no stranger to District 60, but we have Bravo, who is in the house this evening.
Here we go. Good evening, everyone. It is so nice to be back with you in this fine boardroom and to see familiar faces and new faces. I'm Pat Sykorowski. I was the founder of Bravo Waukegan along with my husband 12 or so years ago. It has been a joy to work with you and with your wonderful children and families. Bravo currently is very active. We were active during the pandemic and are still doing programs virtually, although we're moving towards being in person again. You'll hear more about that. This evening I have with me Glenn Roberts, our current president, and Carrie. All know Carrie. We were very mindful of your time, so we're in the interest of that. We're going to show a short video, 2 minutes or so, giving you the highlights of some of our activities. Thank you.
For the last 10 years, Bravo Waukegan's mission has been to foster academic, artistic, and personal growth in students, provide any necessary resources to achieve that growth, and ultimately help build a stronger Waukegan community through music. In the spring of 2020, Bravo created a new program, Raise the Bar. With help from NPR's From the Top, the Back to Back Project, and Carthage College, this program offered individual mentorships from accomplished professional musicians. Using virtual lessons, students observed, explored, and created music. Raise the Bar helps support students' lifelong success through music by offering a pathway to higher education and personal development. Bravo Buddies Summer Music Camp offers students a chance to learn one-on-one with skilled teachers and attend workshops, performances, and field trips. To ensure that students and teachers did not lose out on these essential learning opportunities, we made some changes for summer 2020. To adapt to quarantine regulations, Bravo offered virtual lessons twice a week and hosted virtual events with talented guest musicians. With the support and generosity of the James and Madeline McMullen Family Foundation, Bravo created an online music library with the help of elementary and high school music teachers. The goal was to make this relevant and useful to students and their teachers. The Bravo Music Library provides free access to music, videos, news, and more, which allows for student exploration of music diversity. Offering programs digitally and creating resources that are accessible through Chromebook or laptop has been a major focus of Bravo. We are grateful for the district's impact and the use by teachers, encouraging students to engage with these online offerings. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Glenn Roberts, Chairman of Bravo. Our organization is very committed to providing the Bravo Music Education Program. We know the value that learning an instrument has on the development of youth academic ability. Beyond that, we want to be part of the community, and we want the community to thrive. We want to be part of the lives of the families that we serve. We hope to have earned the respect and trust of the parents in recognition of the importance of hard work in pursuit of excellence. Every September, we hold the annual music and instrument registration, and we see hundreds of families present. Instrument donations from the neighboring communities is at an all-time high. Our reward is seeing the students grow and achieve new goals, and for this, we appreciate your support. Thank you. Now we'll hear from our Executive Director, Carrie Walker.
Good evening, and thank you. This feels so nice to be back and in your company. Yeah. The only thing I really want to bring up and talk about is our summer music camp, Bravo Buddies, which starts mid-June and runs through mid-July. And our enrollment at this point is 140 students. And we've kind of created a window for registration. So we have a waiting list already. We'd like to bring as many students in as possible. It's free of charge again for the third year. It's in person, and it will be at John Lewis Middle School, which is really great. Molly Schaefer is such a wonderful host to us, so we appreciate that very much. And we love that partnership that we have with you. So it's going to be an exciting summer camp. I would ask you to reach out to me if you want to come visit, or just show up. Fridays are going to be special because that's when the whole camp gets together, and we have special guests with workshops and professional artists coming in. We're going to have a field trip down to the city. That's still being worked out. So you can find me at Carey, Karey, at bravowaukegan.org, and just reach out and say, hey, I'd like to pop in and see what's going on. But we're really excited about having this in person for the first time in several years. So, any questions?
Yeah, are you gonna be using all the classrooms over there?
No, actually they have summer school running, and they also have a basketball camp. So we are using the south wing, all those classrooms on the south side of the building, which is really great because then we can kind of contain what it is we want to do. And then also we have free access to the cafeteria and limited access to the small gym and the large gym.
Are you filled to capacity now?
Pardon me?
Are you filled to capacity now with the students?
At 140, given the cutoff deadline, yeah, but we're taking a waiting list. So I encourage everybody to continue to try and enroll. And, we're talking elementary and middle school students mostly. And we have some 8th grade students that are going into high school that have also wanted to be with us for this 4-week session. And, of course, we take them, yeah.
So, okay,
Yeah.
wonderful.
There are so many successes happening outside of just registration for camp. The music donation program has been utterly amazing. The flow of instruments coming in is unbelievable. I mean, thousands of dollars of instruments every week. And so now they're being shuttled to being cleaned. we inventory everything on our end, and then of course here in the district, you inventory it as well. But so that's very exciting, and we have other programs too running, but just wanted to kind of hype up the summer music camp.
One more question.
Yeah.
For the students to use the instruments, is there a charge
No,
to the students?
No.
So no student should be being charged
Correct.
for any instrument?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's through you guys. Like we donate instruments. You purchase instruments, but the district's really great at free of charge for the 4-week camp.
Okay.
We have to. I mean, a lot of work goes into that because we, as a camp people, we've got to inventory and we've got to have contracts signed and we have to collect and then we have to get it back. But it's free of charge.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Carrie, I just want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, and Ms. Sigorovsky.
Rick, thank you.
Because you have, this is your 11th or 12th year doing this. You have touched so many lives in our district, and as your motto says, empowering students through music one note at a time. I just can't believe how many students. I was talking to some the other day, and I was telling them about Bravo Buddies, and they were excited that they were going to be part of it. I just think it's just such a wonderful program that you have, and just continue to do the good work and keep growing it with our schools. It is one of the best programs. I played music a little bit when I was in grade school. I still play the accordion, which is fallen out of style, but I mean, it is just a wonderful
The oom-pa-pa.
thing. Yes, oom-pa-pa, you get it, and polkas.
Yeah.
But it is a wonderful thing. My daughter, learned the violin or viola, and they all learned, early instruments, but one of them, stays with it and keeps it up. And you empower so many kids. Thank you for all the wonderful things you do to our district. We can't thank you enough.
You're so
Sigorovsky,
welcome.
thank you.
I mean, it's Pat.
Pat, you left a wonderful
she started the
legacy
whole
here.
thing. Yeah. Thank you for your time this evening,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've
again,
been here.
and happy summer.
Yeah,
Yes, and we're so glad you're back in person too. It is.
Yeah, it feels
just
good.
wonderful.
Yeah, thanks.
you.
Okay.
I just want to say special thanks to Miss Sakurowski. I was here from the beginning, at the start. The program has blossomed and grown, and it's just it's wonderful. And I'm looking to get some more students involved. And Carrie, I'll probably be talking with you in reference to that. But thank you so much, Pat. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have Bravo Buddies, and everything else. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would just like to say that I love the children of this district. You have remarkable children, and they deserve everything and more that any of us can do for them. And doors are opening. There's no doubt about it. Not just music doors, but what the schools are doing, the teachers are doing. It's amazing. And I'm seeing those college numbers creep up every year, just a little bit, but they're going up. And that's the future of Waukegan. That's the future of our country. So thank you for your part.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and now I believe we get to hear from some of our youth with our 7B Spotlight on 60.
The Civic showcase is about an opportunity for students to advocate for certain issues in their community, whether it's here in the city of Waukegan or in the school district itself.
I see it every day. There's food in breakfast and then food in lunch that just gets wasted.
So one of the biggest things is to teach them the skills to make change. When they see an issue, they want to see something done, how do you go about doing it? Besides just, complaining about it, right? You can make a difference.
And these are the places that accept hot meals like our lunches, and then these are the food pantries that would accept the packaged foods from our breakfast.
Trying to develop some of those soft skills to approach people that have power or can have some sort of influence in changing their issue that they want. Learning how to put together, for example, surveys, gathering that data and that research so they can have more a well-rounded view of what's going on.
When I introduce the project, they are not at all excited. It just seems, I think it's a little overwhelming, especially the presentation aspect. Once they have selected their topics and they start doing like the interviews and the surveys and the research, they learn more about it, they get excited, and that is translated into the projects you're seeing today.
We interviewed Rita Meefield, a gun shop owner, and a professor from UCLA about access to guns and gun violence. So what we learned about this whole project is that we can't prevent people getting guns because there's ghost guns and all the sorts of things. But what we can do, we can raise awareness.
We thought of root causes of crime in Waukegan. And so my group, we chose mental health. Our solution was that we wanted free mental health day for both the staff and the students. Or we still come to school, but instead of doing any work, we have more of like an activity day where we have games that people could play. We have psychiatrists, we have therapists that come to the school and talk to the students here.
It's not just a project. We tell them we want you to try to make the change, actual change. You're not always going to get it, and we want all the community leaders and district leaders to really take them seriously because, as you can see, a lot of their issues are very important issues.
The point is for students to learn more about them, to make more aware of the issues that are facing the city or facing the district, to have those power brokers come in, start those initial conversations, and kind of get the ball rolling from there.
It's really exciting because these are all topics that the students chose. They chose something that was personal and relevant. So to see them come and like display that passion, but also display the skills that we've learned throughout the course of the year, it's exciting, especially for those students who are like kind of shy and reserved. I'm seeing them open up for the first time.
So we want these skills to carry with them throughout their life, to become leaders in their community.
I want people who come in to realize that like our Waukegan students are incredibly passionate and they care about the community. They care about each other, and that's what you're seeing today. And the fact that they're willing to advocate for themselves says a lot.
All right.
So I see some of our civics teachers and students in the room. Was there anything additional? No? Just wanted to see the video. Well, I do want to say that many of the students have not stopped with just the project. They've reached out. You guys want to come up?
I was just going to say, I think we have a couple of students that wanted to do a quick presentation of what they did at the...
Yes. Well, let's do it. Yeah, that's what. This is now the time for the best time for us to do it during the meeting. Yeah, these are students, though.
Do I bring this down? Oh, okay. Hello, I feel like it's really loud. I'm sorry.
That's
okay.
good.
Hello, my name is Ishel. I did this project with 3 other guys. Sadly, they couldn't come, but my name is Ishel, so say that. We did our project about the conditions of the bathrooms because a lot of people go in the bathrooms because you're in the school for a very long day, but the conditions are very, very bad. They're not well, and we know that it is an old school, but we also feel like they should be at least clean and safe. because a lot of people find really nasty things in there, like feminine products all over the bathroom, or feces, or condoms and other things in there, which are not in the safety. It's not safe. It's also in our school a lot, and in the other school where the freshmen and sophomores are at. So, and you would think in our school it would be more clean since they're juniors and seniors, but it's actually worse. I couldn't show the pictures, but in the pictures you would see the lock of the bathroom is not placed well. There's scratches on the stalls. The paint is falling off. There's like toilet paper around. One time a bathroom, like you can't clog it. No, it's clogged. There's like, I don't know how to say it. It's like toilet water in the floor. It's really nasty and it always smells really, really bad. We also, like the picture over there with the Doritos, it is real. There's a lot of nasty things in there. We also did a survey. A lot of people are smoking in the bathrooms. There's, I don't know what else. Okay, it's fine. There's smoking, there's the dirtiness. Oh, there's also no soap in our bathrooms. The soap comes from the library we saw. When I checked out like different weeks that I would go in the bathroom, it would just say it's from the library, or like they just go missing. Where you would put your feminine items, they like the box, I don't know what it's called, it would not be there in any of the stalls for the women, which it should be, and that's why I feel like they're leaving it around in the bathroom. In the boys, I don't really know a lot, but they did tell me that like sometimes there wouldn't be a door in the bathroom. I don't know how that happens, but there wouldn't be a door, or in the where they pee, stuff would be in there, so they couldn't use it, or they just a lot of disgusting stuff. I do have solutions for it. For the feminine one, I want them to put at least a box in there. I don't know how to get with that, and I want to see if there's an organization that can give like tampons and pads, because I see that girls are leaving tampons for the girls because it's a major thing. A lot of women go through periods in school, so that should be a thing. And also for the smoking, I feel like the janitor should go in there and have like a minute to go in there to check out what's happening, to actually do their job and check out what's happening. And for the dirtiness, I feel like the janitor should go like 5th period or 6th period to go clean it, because I learned that they only go at the end of the day to clean it. So they should go like halfway of it cleaning it. I don't know what else. Oh, and you have a question?
I do.
What is it?
Okay, everything that you said, right? Okay, it kind of all pertained to things that were going on while school was going.
Yes.
And so I do want to say that our staff, that they have cleaned the bathrooms, they have the scratches on the walls and all that stuff. The staff, maintenance people, they've done what they needed to do in the bathrooms, except those obviously, get the box for the personal items and stuff, right? But my question is, in the solutions, okay, the janitor and everybody, they're not the ones doing it.
No, they're not.
Students.
It is
right?
the students,
and
yes.
So I'm asking you, as a student, potential leader, speaking up, what can you do to talk with your fellow students to help this situation with the conditions of the bathroom?
I feel like they should speak up about what's happening, and they should stop it in a way, because they see the things but they don't report it. They just let it go, which is not a good thing. And I feel like they should report it, because without reporting, it's not going to do anything, and they should stop it, because it's the way I got an example from the principal was that it can be a small thing, and then they just leave it, and then it turns more and more and more, and then they're going to complain about it, but they're not going to do nothing about it because they started it. So I feel like they should report the small issue so it gets fixed, so it doesn't go more and then more and then more and then more, and then it's just unfixable.
And I'm sure the grown-ups don't bring condoms.
No, it's the kids. Yes,
Right, and so they have what I'm trying to say is they have a responsibility and an obligation too, because we're going to do our parts to make sure that things are there, okay? And thank you for bringing to our attention about some of the issues that we can look into, right? But also the students have a responsibility.
They do, yes.
I want to say on the behalf of the student, you made a comment, and that is they should be going in there every 5th period to check. And unlike you go into a spilling station, ladies and men, that attendant have to go in there every so often because people are messy. I don't care where you at. So somebody should be going in there at 5th period.
Yeah.
And what I
I feel like every period they should supervise it.
Some kind of way.
Yeah, that's true.
The bathroom is where our children hang out at.
Yeah, it is.
Even when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I mean, we wasn't doing that. We was shooting dice and smoking reefers.
And Mr. McLemore. I got you.
It is a place where they hang out. I see it when I go. They're just hanging out there. It's a place where they can hang out. I know that. But also should be clean for the other people that are not hanging out and they're using it for what it is for, you know?
And the one thing, there are two things that I want to say to the student, and then if we can get the next presentation ready, because we do want to get through them. I know I don't see Deputy Moten, but he stepped back in. Is Deputy Moten, if you could grab the microphone and briefly just talk about the grants to replace the bathroom and that work that's going on, as well as even the detectors, and that you can come back and report how that is helping with the issue in the bathroom.
Yes, thank you, Board President. Excuse me, I had to step out of the room. So we have received a grant for restroom updates throughout the district. It's a $1 million grant. Also the detectors, such as the vape detectors, we've installed at the Washington campus. We intend to continue that program and have some information on that at our next OSC meeting in June.
Thank you, Deputy Bolden, and we'll continue. So I appreciate you speaking up and speaking out, and this is exactly why the civics projects are so important. And as Ms. Hannah stated, but also it's true, we as the adults have a responsibility, and us as students have a responsibility, and both have to be doing their jobs in order for us to be successful. So I appreciate you bringing that up. And then if we can get the next presentation ready.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, right here.
I talked to her. Yeah.
What's your name?
Did you go to that civics thing? You going to civics? Oh, okay. No, this was just a few weeks ago. This was at Washington.
Good job.
Awesome. All right, and our next student.
Good job.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
And I do want to
hello.
state that you offered some very simple solutions, and so I hope that Deputy Moten took notes in order to implement those right away. Thank you.
Also, our principal, Dan Hill, is here also. So when you have meetings with your student advisory group that I know that you've committed to and started, this could be one of the topics you address during one of those meetings.
Here we are. All right. Our next student.
Hello, my name's Jacqueline Palencia, but you guys can just call me Jackie.
I started this project on my own at first, based on personal experience and things that I've seen around me. The most big topic about it is class to help understand depression and anxiety, more or less for the students who want the help but don't know how to reach out to it, or the kids who do not need the help but want to help the others around them. I only really started this because more or less this year has been kind of hard. I myself have been dealing with my own personal struggles, whether with family or with friends or close ones. And I noticed that this year I've seen not just my own friends, but random students in the hallway who are dealing with more in their lives. Whether it comes to simple things such as school or even work, or hard things in the family that they find something not easy to talk about. I first started off the project with some Google Forms that remain anonymous, with simple questions such as, do you feel like the school is an easy place to talk about this topic? Do you feel like the teachers are people that you can turn to? During this whole time period of doing the project, it was not only hard to try to see what the students are trying to talk about, but it was also hard to not sympathize with them at the same time about it. Because sadly nowadays I understand that students do not know the whole thing between self-diagnosing and when they actually need help. I'm sorry you cannot see the board, but for you in front of me, if you were to look over at the board, I know it's hard to read. You're more than welcome to come up. But more or less, I first started off with some questions that I had for them.
Keep the mic with you. It's being televised. I can't hear you.
I first started off with some questions, simple things as, do you feel like you can reach out to your teachers and counselors about your mental health? Do you feel as if having a class teaching about depression can help? And at first, I wasn't really expecting to get results from it. Kids don't like talking about this. It's not easy. It's hard. I myself, speaking about it right now, feel embarrassed when it comes to talking about feelings or emotions, but it's something that I feel like the schools have to be on top of. From there on, I went with an interview with a worker at the school, a counselor, my own. And some of the questions that I asked were not only my own, but questions that I had from the students. Because a week before that, I had interviewed some students one-on-one to see what their responses were. And I'm surprised by it. I'm surprised by how many students were willing to go and talk to me about something so sensitive, so personal. Up here are some questions that I have for them and some of the responses. Some students were nice to put out their first names and last names, and some students decided to add their IDs as well. One of the first questions I had asked, something simple, something that we can all agree on. Do you feel as if the youth today take topics such as depression and anxiety serious? Some had said some don't take into consideration. Some do it for attention. It's in the middle. People try to help and understand, but they don't know how. And I guess it's like a nod. I guess because of social media, some people see it as a joke. From there on, my next question to them was, do you feel like you can turn to the teachers in your own classes for such serious topics? It's not that well. Some teachers, some are more involved. I feel like it's mostly the way that they approach you to make them seem like you can turn to. And it depends that there are certain teachers that they mostly just warn you about it. From there on, I went with the interview with the counselor. And here are just 5 of the questions that I picked out that I feel that the students more or less wanted me to also go with. One of the questions that I had was that, why are you guys called counselors if you guys wouldn't even act like it? Counselors only reach out to you for schedules, sports, events. The principal can do that. Anyone can do that. But why call you counselors then? If I can't reach out to you for something as personal as speaking about a topic going on at home, why do you guys only come to us for things that are important? Of course they're important. Schedules are important. Sports are important. Graduation is important. But what if the student feels a bit not ready to talk about that yet because something mentally is holding them back, something emotionally is holding them back? And even then, when we do go to use, why is there not a follow-up? Why not a check-in? Why not, hey, it's been a month. How's it been? They don't do that. Another question that we had was, is there anyone else that we can reach out to? They mentioned the social workers. I didn't know we had social workers at the school. I didn't know. Why didn't they reach out? The counselors may put their emails around, but as far as I know, the social workers don't. And even then, when I went to go try to interview some of the social workers, I noticed their offices. They're small. They're cramped between classes. If they're not getting somewhere serious, how are they going to take their job serious? And then one of the other questions for it was that why do you guys make us focus on something else as graduation and schoolwork than besides our own mental health? There are 4 levels, apparently, she told me, when it comes to this. It's academics, graduation, college, then mental health. 4 levels? Are we really on that 4 for you? Shouldn't it be first? If you guys, as you guys say, truly care about what the students need and want. Clearly not. Around here are some posters that they hanged up around the school, but if you can come up and look, they're in poor condition. Even then, students who probably are going through it are clearly giving it a nod. They're not caring about it. And I know you might say, well, they offer programs at school, don't they? The Erica Lighthouse, the counselors come to talk. The counselors half of the time just play the video, say what they need to say, and that's it. They leave. They don't bother checking up. I myself have asked it at one point to, on the little slips that they hand out, if I could speak to someone because I needed someone to speak to. It's been 2 years now. I'm still waiting.
Maybe you should turn around, sweetheart, and talk to them because they need to hear you because you've been telling them that and they ain't heard them. Look at all 7 of them.
Did you hear that? They've been telling you. Telling. Why did no one get back to me? Clearly, as you guys say, you guys care. Where's the caring? I mean, I don't even know half of your guys' names. Isn't that just kind of sad to know that you guys aren't involved? You know, I get it. A kid's mind nowadays, the youth, it's not fully formed. You know, they're. I understand that you might think, oh, well, what they'd be thinking could be depression, could be in a roller coaster of emotions. Maybe that's why they need the class, so they can understand that, so they don't self-diagnose. So they don't try to feel like, oh, you know what, I gotta keep this to myself, or oh, you know what, I'm fine, I'll get over it, you know? Think about it this way. Regular sadness is an animal passes away, you know, you feel sad about that, but sooner or later you can get over it. That's not what it's like with depression. It's hard, it stays there, and it buries you. Following more into it, I was originally just doing one board at it at first, but around 2:00 a.m. I decided to work on the second board here, the exact same day that the expo was going on later on. On here on the board is reasons why for students not to self-diagnose, and more follow-ups with questions that I had for the students. I asked it just a simple question. What is depression in their own words? Reading out loud one of them, it says, depression is not being sad. Being sad, like I said, is when you get sad over an animal dying, it goes away. Depression stays with you, and it could be lifelong. Keep in mind, this is either a junior or a senior that said this. How is it that even though they're at that age, they're able to at least be able to tell the difference at it? But when we want to talk to our counselors about it, they just, at the most, like how my counselor did, give you a piece of candy, a gum, and then that's it. I didn't get a follow-up. I didn't get nothing out of it. Moving on forward, of course there are some reasons that youths might have these feelings and emotions. But once again, I asked it, what are some reasons that the students here feel like as if they might have it? Some kids have, we're honest, social media, dating pressures, how people think of themselves, their family, their school, the pressure of being into adulthood and not knowing how. I only started this project based on my own personal experiences, based on what I had gone through and what I'm still dealing with. It's not easy, but
it's hard to not be able to at least find somewhere to at least open up. If I can't open up at home, let me at least open up to school. And if I can open up to school, then what? Are you guys going to wait till, God forbid, something big happens and then decide right there? Are we really going to wait? I myself, sadly, have almost turned to those things. It wasn't easy, but then again, I didn't have anywhere at school to help me. The counselors were involved, but more involved in my grades and like, oh, you got to pick that up rather than, is there a reason why? Did you just do you need someone to talk to? On the day of the expo, it was very hard. There were some kids who laughed it off, who made fun of it. But just because they did doesn't mean that I'm going to laugh about it or push it off. I'm only a junior going on to be a senior, but I would really appreciate if everyone can at least understand how serious it is, because I know I'm not the only one that did something for such a serious topic. I know other students have. But even then, those students, I don't exactly see them here either. I don't see them taking it serious as well. So I hope you can take in mind that with me being here as well, to notice how serious I am taking this. I'm not going to let this brush off me easily. That's all I can say to you. And I appreciate the time you have given me. If you have any questions, please, by all means, let me know.
No. And before you sit down, I just want to say thank you for, one, coming here. I know how hard that is, how tough it is. Thank you for your personal story and making sure it's when you center student voice. So the questions that you asked are not questions that have not been asked, but those that are around this table and in this room and watching on live and that are in those buildings are tasked with solving it. There were individuals that have met with the board and board members related to mental health. One of the first things that we're doing is to validate you all's information. And so I know you did your own surveys. There were other individuals that did your survey. I think that the problem is very, very deep and that it impacts many, many students. So one of the things that we're working with our Director of Communications is to do a student-based survey, and we would like your help to help come up with the questions. Is because the board does care. We care very much about mental health. That's one of the reasons that we're looking at the wraparound center. That's one of the reasons that we talk with Waukegan College about how do we bring a mental health, how do we utilize the resources that we have. So there's social workers in the room tonight, there are counselors in the room tonight, there are counselors on live. I want them to hear your experience. Is because when it comes from the community, even when it comes from board members, even when it comes, it's because they know how hard they work. But I also know that you're not the first student to come forward and to say how you feel. And so what we have to do is stop talking past each other and to each other. So I want to say thank you. I want to say you are appreciated. I want to say that you are seen. And this is not something that we are going to drop. We haven't. There have been other steps that we've taken. But we also have to make sure that we're doing a better job of making sure that our students know what supports exist. Because for you to say, I don't know where to turn to, for you to fill out a survey, and for there not to be any follow-up, again, that is unacceptable. Yep. I'm sorry, and we will do better.
And
Can I say something?
my name is Miss Hannah.
That's what we should.
Okay, my name is Miss Hannah, and call me, email me, amhannah@wps60.org. Anytime.
Thank you, Ms. If
Again, I apologize. These are perspective things. My name is Board Member Brandon Ewing, so thank you. And Ms. Gonzalez, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I wanted to say the same thing to the students that came up, is that sometimes, we're on the website, but we're not in the classroom, and if Mr. Ashlock, who I appreciate very much, Miss Bankston, I grew up with Ayana. She graduated in the class of 2014 with me. If your teachers ever want us to be in the classroom with you and tell you what we've been voting on and working on, tell us. We will make the time to go visit y'all, because it's kind of it sucks, but we're adults, and if we're not engaged with you in an employee or a board formal setting and commitment, I don't know how to reach y'all, right? I have Instagram, I'm not on TikTok, I have Facebook, but all of us at the table do want to interact and engage with you and get the word out about the stuff that we're working on. And I can even say personally, I don't know where Jackie went, but you know, it's hard, but I struggle with depression too, and it's something that I have experienced in my life, both through family and in my personal experience, but we don't get the space to talk about that. I'll be at a panel on June 8th talking about mental health and my service. I will share it with some of the civics teachers. I've already shared it with some of the students who've talked to me and President Ewing. But you know, I think that that's really important, is that we're not ignoring the students. We actually really care, and we understand the complaints that have been brought up several times. We just need to better communicate about where we are and where we want to be with you guys.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to say that the last time we had assembly with students, Mr. McIntosh back there brought that on.
That's right.
And we all had the students out in the auditorium, and we were there to answer questions about their concerns and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And that was an opportunity for students to know who we was, because we were engaged with the students. And that, the last time it happened, Anthony McIntosh made it happen. But I've always said that we need to have more assemblies. Mm-hmm. And once we do that, instead of waiting for the student to come to the podium and tell us what they need, we should be going to them, but with something that we don't do. And also, too, I think we should be able to, not so much as be able to, we should be able to sometime go into the buildings and make ourselves available to the principals, and maybe the principals also can maybe take us to the classrooms and interact with the students. But more so than anything, we should have more assemblies with the kids, and that's to talk about whatever mental issues, behavior, it just in general, any concerns. We should be able to do that, and we should do it more often. And now that we're back in person, we should at some point when school start back, say, well, we're going to have at least 4 assemblies in a year's time to deal with whatever the cases may be.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
And so I do know that Principal Hill is here, and I know you know the students, but this would be something that we would like reported back to the board, and I know that you're working on it with what resources we're doing in order to solve these problems. So,
Right.
and Ms. Carter, I see you in back. So, thank you. All right. Next up is 8A, approval of the minutes of the special open session meeting of March 14th, 2022.
A motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Motion by Ms. Wozniak.
Second.
Second by Mr. Riddle. Any comments, questions, or corrections to the minutes? All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. We are now at 9A, our opportunity for public comment. All right, as I call your name, please come up to the podium. If you need translation services, we do have translation services available. You get 3 minutes. The clock will be on the window. If you need additional time for translation, it will be 6 minutes. We do ask that you refrain from mentioning student and staff names in your remarks. First name on the list is Denise Pollock. Or Pollock? Denise, I'm sorry.
Denise Pollock.
Get it all the time.
Alrighty.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Miss Jackie kind of threw me off my game a little bit. I'm the school psychologist at Juarez. So what I wanted to talk to you a little bit tonight is just about how our systems work at Juarez. So I didn't plan this to follow after Jackie, but I hope that this will kind of be informative. I know you're going to vote tonight on the programs provided through youth guidance. So I just kind of wanted to start by talking about, first of all, this was a tough year, as you mentioned at the very beginning of the meeting. It was a tough year for our kids, our families, our parents, our teachers. We had our parents in all the time. We had the same parents in all the time. We had parents in with other parents. We had parents in with kids. we kept going back to the teachers as support staff and asking them to do more and more. And I can't stress enough how much they rose to the occasion for our kids. So this year's in the books. We spent the last couple weeks really looking at all of our data and figuring out how to beef up our systems for next year. And I'm going to be honest with you, that presentation kind of gave me some ideas for some of our Tier 1 PBIS implementation. I just want to say that the support staff at Juarez works as a team. We have 3 grade level counselors, 2 social workers, and myself as the school psychologist. We all have different roles based on our qualifications in those different jobs, but when it comes to delivering our SEL interventions, we work together as a team. So I just kind of want to talk a little bit about that, first by mentioning our BAM counselor. Our BAM counselor was Chris Duran, and he was amazing. He integrated with us during remote learning. He fell right into our systems. He attended problem-solving meetings for kids. He gave insight when we were planning interventions. He supported all of our restorative conversations, which we conduct as part of our Tier 1 system. In remote learning, he became one of us. That was huge. So I don't want you to think of BAM as a separate entity. They come in and they work with us. We look at our data every single week. The support staff does. We come with our data prepared in a spreadsheet, so the only thing that we're focusing on is planning our interventions. We co-facilitate our interventions. Today, I finished a list with my MTSS specialists, because we're working with them too, on the interventions that we provide for SEL at the different tiers. We identified 23 things that are built into our systems. It wasn't perfect this year. We have a lot of work we need to do on our monitoring, but we identified 23 things. And then we had to identify what was provided through the district people and what was provided through the outside entity. And 19 of those things are provided by us in-house on a daily basis with our kids. The other thing I want to say, I just got like 9 seconds left, but I just want to mention that with our panorama data and our external behavior data and our students who wanted check-ins from our suicide prevention, no crossover in kids except for 3.
Wow.
Right? So that's key. So I just want you to know we're doing a lot in a lot of ways.
Thank you.
But
And I'm sorry. I know.
that's
I
okay.
think
I
I
just
do
had to get that
apologize.
last point in.
Next name on the list is Mark Dalton.
We're here as we're the social workers from Brookside. So in order for efficiency, our times will overlap.
So, and I'm sorry, can we restart the clock? And Mr. Dalton is because they helped me keep it. You're not transferring the time. Each of you will get 3 minutes.
The time will transfer. So there will be. I'll speak for about 8 minutes, a little bit better than 8 minutes.
Unless each one of you want 3 minutes apiece.
So again, this is the issue. When our current policy does not allow you to transfer minutes, and when I make an exception, I'm unable to. So what I will ask is, if your remarks are written, if you transfer at the end of 3 minutes, and each person continue with your remarks.
The only thing I would say about that is, if you're interested in clear communication about what we're feeling, and this is something that we've all agreed upon, this would be the clearest, most effective way to present that information to you. I'm sorry that this would feel like an exception. When I've done this in the past, I've not had a problem doing this.
Again, and the only thing I'll say is, even when I allow individuals to go over by 10 seconds, and even this back and forth, someone's going to tell me that I didn't do it with them. So while I know, and I appreciate and I validate why you want to do it, the parameters of our board meetings for public comment is 3 minutes.
Who's willing to speak? Yes? Okay. All right, then we'll do it
Thank you,
your way.
Mr. Dalton, and I apologize.
Most of them are signed up, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
but
they are.
so they all get 3 minutes. So-
Right, Ms.
but
Anna.
to be able to speak with continuity and
I understand.
Not
I do get exactly why you wanted to.
All right.
But thank you, Mr. Dalton. Whenever you're ready, your first 3 minutes will begin.
Okay. I would like to start by saying I have always felt good after leaving the board meetings. In spite of all the challenges Waukegan faces, for me at least, the board meetings have been a safe place to talk and listen to different points of view about important and difficult subjects. This was evident in the outcomes of the 518 student achievement meeting. There were some takeaways that were encouraging and hopeful. I want to go over some of them to clarify and confirm what was said and heard. First, and most important, in Waukegan, everyone does SEL. I'm thinking of getting a t-shirt that says that, and anybody who would like one, please let me know. Related to that was discussions about making a policy that would explicitly spell out SEL expectations. To further support progress on this issue, a meeting will or has been set up to bring the heads of counseling, social work, and MTSS together. Psychologists also have an important but unmentioned role in that. The hiring of long vacant positions such as a counseling coordinator is now a priority. BAM, WOW, and Asian Human Services have had problems and successes. We'll speak about that more later. Having said that, the money they are asking for would hire an awful lot of social workers. More about this later as well. Building capacity is important. BAM, WOW, and Asian Human Services are not substitutes for building capacity. The concept of and over or was repeatedly stressed. For example, spending money on BAM, WOW, and AHS does not mean money is not available for building SEL capacity in the district. When the specific question of are we hiring more social workers was asked, the response was, we're looking into that. Those are my takeaways as I understood it. I've been really torn about should and what I would say this evening. Sometimes there's a difference between the right and the good thing to do. I don't feel right about opposing BAM and WOW. I don't feel good about the unmet needs that might result from the funding of these programs. I'm not sure and over or is practically possible. Tonight you're going to vote on the BAM, WOW, and AHS proposals at a cost of about $2.5 million. Wow. As is now clear, these programs have had a number of problems just using the resources originally allocated to them. The data for BAM and WOW that was promised was not presented. The assertion that they operate as a Tier 2 intervention was not confirmed by the data or procedures. The programs were not well integrated into the school systems, especially at Brookside. Data, especially for such big ticket items, should be valid, reliable, transparent, and made available to the public ahead of time so that they can be adequately considered. In fairness, these shortcomings are not all the fault of BAM and WOW, but also the result of circumstances that brought them here in the first place.
Thank you, Mr. Dahl. Next name on the list was, I believe, Nicole Dominguez.
One of the big takeaways from the 518 meeting is just how much help $2.5 million could translate into this money were put towards social work positions and building internal capacity. Our buildings are woefully understaffed. Even with the addition of 5 social work positions a few years ago, our staffing is still not back to where we were before the 2017 contract, and the consensus was we were understaffed then. By way of example, most middle schools had 2 social workers, and the feeling was we were not able to meet needs at that level. Now most middle schools are at 1. A data point to consider, BAM and WOW have been at Brookside this past school year. Their presence and actions were not enough to keep one social worker from resigning due to the overwhelming social-emotional needs this person was dealing with on a daily basis. It was not enough to prevent another social worker to request a transfer to another building for the same reasons. And still, another social worker seriously contemplates leaving if that worker felt like nothing would be done to try and change what was happening. This is an example of capacity destruction. It is something that is occurring throughout the district. It is something that has been occurring for a number of years. Interdisciplinary meetings, PBIS trainings in doing Tier 2 and 3 interventions with fidelity, district rep services and teams, district rep workers, district psychiatric services. We've had them all, we've lost them all. BAM and WOW will not replace them. Many of you probably don't even know that we had these capacities. That is because we have lost so much institutional wisdom as a result of turnover. More capacity destruction. What is right and what is good are connected by a 3-letter word, and, which was another important takeaway from the 518 meeting. Outside programming and building internal capacity. This is why I am so admiring of the board's position on and. Building capacity is the better but more difficult task. In order to build capacity, capacity destruction must stop. In order to grow capacity, you must first sustain what you have. In order to sustain, you must look at the causes of capacity destruction and address them. This is much more difficult than funding outside agency. It is good and right. Something that was a discouraging takeaway from the response to the question, can we bring on more social workers, with the answer being, we'll take a look at that. What more is there to see? You have already been given very good data that point to the numbers using PBIS criteria for need and broken down into load per FTE across support staff disciplines. It is clear the current staffing and structure with or without BAM-WOW is not sufficient to support the SEL needs of our students, nor implement a functional MTSS model for the Brookside building. I can't speak for other buildings, but I can't imagine it is so different there. In regards to more social workers, no answer should be we can't afford it. No answer should be we don't need them.
That's right.
Thank you. Next name on the list was Nick Caston.
Hello. A little over 5 years ago, started at Brookside. There were 2 social workers for the building of about 2,500 students. Since then, nearly every year has been an honest advocacy for me. This year we started the year with 4.6 full-time employees, which is the most we've ever had since I've been there. At the end of this year, we are effectively down to 2 due to resignations, transfers, and reassignments. I know you all are aware of some of the reasons this has happened. A number of knowledgeable related service staff have estimated we need at least 7 social workers for our building and the implementation of more collaborative social emotional learning model. Why did we come here? We do not get time to or comp for this time that we're doing this. We derive no financial benefit from this. It doesn't lessen our workload. God knows that there is always more to be done, and we are trying to do it. We are here because we see firsthand every day the unmet needs in our building. We are tired of all of the routes we could think of to bring the attention to this attention and the resources to find better ways to help our students. You decide how these needs will be met. You decide what resources will be used to meet them. We believe in and, or over or, even if we haven't seen it. We believe in the integrating outside agencies into our buildings. We believe in the building capacity, and that includes more social workers. We believe in everyone doing social emotional learning at Waukegan, and especially includes counselors, social workers, and psychologists working together. If we follow through with any of our takeaways, difficult as it may be, it can have a transformative effect on our district in both good and right. We thank you for our time. And just to say, I was really moved by Jackie's presentation because it really did hit a lot with what we are experiencing currently at Brookside. We are, to her thing, where students have experienced similar things, resolving on trying to seek out mental health and being told to go other places. So it's not just at one building.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your remarks, and I appreciate you for abiding by the 3-minute rule. Next name on the list is Christine Lindsay. But whenever you're ready and you start talking, that's when the time will start, Miss Lindsay.
I think we can all just take a collective breath. Like, whew. Jackie's presentation hit hard. We have 4 social workers that came in expressing that they need support. I came in just trying to talk about the bullying survey that came out. And this ties into it, I guess. So, I recently received a message to fill out a bullying survey for the schools. And I thought, wow, this is great. Unfortunately, it's the end of the year. Why am I getting this now? Why wasn't there halfway through the year after the first quarter? Why aren't we doing more check-ins? I dove a little deeper and went to the district's website, which I have to say is in piss poor shape, excuse my language, but to navigate it is atrocious. It's bad. What I did see, though, was that for the 2019-2020 school year, there were 0 incidents of bullying at any of the schools. Just a show of hands, if you're a parent or a staff member, if you are aware of any bullying at your location or for your child. I don't know how we get to 0. We have board members that raise their hand. How was that 0? 2020 to 2021, there's a blurb on how it was mostly virtual and there was a hybrid option, so there was no data available. Cyberbullying is real. Cyberbullying should have been assessed. There was still potential bullying happening for those students that did have the opportunity to be in those schools. And you're just going to say, well, it was a bad year, so we're not going to count it. I filled out the survey from my perspective. I pulled my 2nd grade daughter to start filling out the student survey. The lowest grade level on that survey is 3rd grade. I lied and said, this is a 3rd grader completing this. I asked my daughter those questions, and she responded to all of them. She has felt bullied. She has not reported it. She didn't come to me or my husband, who are extremely involved in their education. So if we have high school students saying that they don't feel they have someone safe to go to, and I have my 2nd grade daughter telling me she doesn't have someone that she can go to, there's seriously an issue. And I'm glad that there's plans in the works, but these kids needed something 2 years ago is what I'm hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Lindsay. The next name, I believe, is Jenny Wade. If that is incorrect, correct me at the microphone.
It's Terry Wade.
Terry Wade.
Terry.
Thank you, Ms. Wade.
He went to school for penmanship.
No. Trust me, that's these millennial eyes. You write in cursive, and I'll try and make out the letters. And whenever you start talking, Ms. Wade, your time will begin.
Good evening to the board as well as to the audience. I am Terry Wade. I am a local children's book author. I wrote this book, Freddie and His Magical Umbrella. I wanted to bring Freddie so he could meet you, so that you could see him in the flesh. And I'm here tonight because I think it's very important for children to learn to read at a very early age. We can all be involved in this, whether you're grandparents, whether you are parents. I want to encourage you. It's important for your children to learn to read very early. I started a licensed in-home daycare. And my purpose for that was because I realized that a lot of the black and brown children were so far behind when it came to reading skills when they started school. So that is why I started a home daycare, so that I could encourage my children from 6 months old. And I want to emphasize to you all the importance as parents. We're coming up on summer. I know there'll be lots of activities, there'll be traveling, there'll be vacations, but I want to express to you the importance of reading to your children. We've heard that old adage, reading is fundamental. Well, it really is, because if our children can't read, they can't write, they can't learn math, they can't go on and get a better education. I'm one of those kids. I was a single mom at 16, but I knew that I wanted to be somebody to do something. So not only did I finish high school and went to college, but I actually became an officer in the United States Air Force and served my country. So I think that's very important for you to understand that I'm here because I want you to understand the importance of our children get off to a good start. There are black authors in the area. I am one of them. I'm not here to sell a book. That's not what I'm here for. I just want you to know that we do exist. You can go on Amazon. You can do a research. You can search African American authors, because I do think that we do have diversity in our schools, and it's good for authors to come into the schools and read to the children. I don't know if you have programs where professionals come in, but I'd be honored to come in and read. I leave my card with you all if you want to get in touch with me. But I want to express to you guys, please read to your children, because that is very important to them. If we want them to get off on a good start and excel, because I feel like this, the world is their oyster, and it's up to us as parents and as adults to guide our children and to give them the necessary tools that they're going to need to prepare them for life, so that they can go on to be successful. We owe that to those children. They did not ask to be here. We had those children for whatever reason, but they are here. We have a job. We have a duty to our children. Thank you for your time. And Freddie thanks you too.
Can we see Freddie? Can we see Freddie?
Thank you, Ms. Wade.
Oh, that's Freddie. Okay. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Ms. Wade. Next name on the list is Clyde McLemore.
Hey, I was coming to say something, but them children really opened up the door, made me change my whole perspective. And I want to apologize to y'all, but I was telling the truth. Y'all that know me know I will speak the truth out of my mouth. When I was in high school, the hangout was the bathroom. I learned how to step in the bathroom. I learned how to smoke weed in the bathroom. Y'all call it weed, we call it reefer. And I learned how to shoot dice in the bathroom. So now they're not doing that no more. They're doing other things in the bathroom. And that baby just sat there and said. So how do we get in the solution? We ain't gonna talk about the problem, let's talk about the solution. I just read $13,000 was given to a firm to come in here to pick out somebody, which nobody locally would get the job because they gonna pick out who they want. And our teachers that works here in the school district, they too busy working to go try to find out who this firm is, because they already got their people anyway. That $13,000 could be used for somebody to go in them bathrooms and clean it up after every period. Because we got laws, so we can't just send in the safety people to come in the bathroom, because then they'll say something is wrong, So they know, these kids know the law. They know the law. They know where to hang out at, I just had to say that. But how do we get in the solution? I just saw 4 social workers come up here, and I've been arguing about the prison pipeline. And depression is very, very real. And when our children get depressed and they ain't got nobody to talk to, what do they do to get attention? They act out. And when you act out and you don't get no more attention, you act out more. And when you do that, the teachers get tired, the social workers get tired, and they call the police. And then we catch a case, all for acting stupid. That's all it was a simple joke. We need these social workers. We need these people. That baby asked for, man, that almost brought tears to my eyes. When that baby said she need help, she was reaching out for help. What y'all want to wait for, a suicide to happen? Because that's what I heard. I don't know what y'all heard, but that's what I heard. If we don't do something is going to happen really big, And $13,000 to go find somebody that we can't get nobody from our community to do. I mean, it's well qualified people that could be a principal in the school. As a matter of fact, that principal didn't do his job. I didn't get to go up to the school. I didn't hang out up at the school. I don't go into school unless I call one of the board members or a superintendent and tell him I need to come up there. But it wasn't right. It wasn't right. And I really don't.
Thank you, Clyde. Next name on the list is Rayon Edwards.
Here we are again, y'all. I'm going to go and start off, and I'm going to look at this community because I don't understand something. Y'all don't even listen to us. Some of the things that those babies were saying, we've been saying it. We've been talking it. So I'm gonna address a few things real point and brief, and don't tell me not to use names, because that's what the names are up here for. So let's start here. Riddle, you talked about Bravo. I heard you speak a lot. That's the most I've heard you speaking in the 15 board meetings that I've been here, sir. And I know you personally. So I didn't meet you on here. I met you in the county jail, unfortunately. But that's the most I've heard you speak since I've been coming to these board meetings. And it's real funny that they was talking about music and things, but things that happen for our black and brown kids, I don't even get you to clap for. That's sad. And we see this. Okay, let me address this young lady over there in the corner who's half of my age and always trying to educate me. Baby, you ain't where I'm from. You couldn't make it 2 days in my neck of the neighborhood. You can't tell these kids about gangs and prisons and drugs because you didn't experience that. And see, that's the difference, and that's what y'all got to understand. See, the people that can talk about those things, you don't want them there. You want the people with the book smart. Nick, wherever you at, you need to be up in here listening too, because you distort a lot of information that goes in these newspapers and on these social platforms, because you used to work for the Waukegan News, son. See, y'all be acting like we don't understand things or we don't know no better. I ain't go to college, but baby, I bet you I'm college educated.
Right now.
Okay? Today we had an incident in Texas. 14 kids and a student. That 18, excuse me.
And a teacher.
Monday, I watched a young man get hit by a motorcycle. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm dealing with that, right? And I'm sweating and I'm hot and I'm angry. So I'm going to make a promise to all y'all. Clean it up or it ain't going to be no education starting the new school year. And I'm going to tell you why I say that. Because right now, this young man that y'all looking at, he have power. Everybody said to me, God had you there for a reason, and it took me a week to understand it. God need me to speak for those babies, and I'm here, and I'm going to do just that. Y'all sitting on them seats, and I want y'all to understand something. We, the community, don't work for y'all. Y'all work for us.
That's right.
You hear me? So when you addressing us, whether it's on social media, in public, I don't care where you see us at, you address us with some sense, because you there because we want you there, not because you want to be there. So when you say to me, deal with it because I'm here, see you at the polls, sweetheart.
I respect that, 100%.
Next name on the list is Michael Garrity.
Meg.
Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening. My name is Michael Garrity, and I'm an electrician for Waukegan Public Schools. I'm also a union steward for the Service Employees International Union, Local 73. We represent our custodial and maintenance employees within the operations department. On behalf of the SEIU, I would like to thank Superintendent Placencia and the Board of Education for our inclusion, the inclusion of our unit in the retention incentive program. I am confident this gesture will be received by our membership with gratitude and enthusiasm. It is a privilege to work in an environment where workers and their families are held in such high regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrity. Next name on the list is Amy Montalbano. All right, I don't see Amy present. If she makes herself her presence known by the time public comment ends, I will allow her the opportunity to speak. Next name on the list is Anthony McIntyre. Oh, I'm sorry, but go ahead, Mr. McIntyre. I called your name first. I'll come back to you, Miss. You sure? All right, Amy Montalbano.
Good evening, school board and superintendent. Just like the gentleman before me, I just wanted to say thanks to the board for considering the, hold on, I have it written down so I get it correct. The COVID employee retention incentive, which is item 20B. I think that with the last couple of years with our group, with all the groups in Waukegan, and all of the support that we've given the students. I think that this would be a really great gesture, and I'm hoping that you approve it. So thanks again for considering it, and hopefully you vote yes.
Thank you, Ms. Montalbano. And the next name on the list is Anthony McIntyre.
Good evening, everyone. So the Antmount Foundation has a business program that we started some time ago that we just activated. We had our very first, actually at the end of our very first pilot program. ANB is a business incubator. We like to call it a business boot camp, if you will. So relevant to you guys, we have 4 students from Waukegan High School who are participating in this program. I want to thank Ms. Yvonne Fulton and Principal Daniel Hill for working with us to come across these students. Probably more importantly, I would like to thank your student board member, Joanna. She's been very helpful with most of what we've been doing, so thank you. That's that. Mr. McBride spoke about the student forum that we had a few years back. Yes, we were, well, I guess I have to thank Ms. Fulton again, because that wouldn't have happened without Ms. Fulton, who at the time was the 9th grade director at the high school. That forum was so important because it gave an opportunity, as Mr. McBride said, for us to be able to hear the students directly. Most of the individuals who make the decisions for the district were present. The students did not pull punches. They told you guys exactly what was on their mind. I forget what the percentage was, but I think there was probably some 60% of the suggestions from the students, 70%, so says Ms. Lucy Leguizamo, that actually were implemented. I don't know how long they were implemented. I wonder if those things were consistent. Right now, some of the things that I hear from the students, I also heard from the students on that forum. So I think that we should really take into consideration that it's one thing to hear and address something temporarily, but if it disappears in a week or a month, I don't know what the point was. So my hope is that we will have more of these events and that you guys won't just hear it temporarily, but you will consistently stay on top of it. If that happens, I think that will go a long ways to help the student body and students. Look at, we got Raven over here. I think Raven was the first student board member. So I want to congratulate Raven for coming back. I mean, Raven left here, went off to college, and now she's back. So hopefully Joanna gets a chance, if she hasn't already, to speak to the person that started this process. Thank you all.
Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you.
Next name on the list is Diana Bagra. And Miss Diana, your time will start whenever you start speaking.
That was Raven sitting there.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to do a follow-up from last week. I want to give a shout out to the outreach department, KT, Miss Jackie, the whole outreach department. They made it possible for my son to have a device. I think it's unbelievable that the district, my district here, 60, could not provide one for them. It's sad that we had to waste that manpower to drive 52 miles to get a device for one child, my son. But I do want to give a shout out to them for being supportive and doing that, and that was awesome. I just want us to please be mindful about our all placement students. I did appreciate you, Mr. Ewing, asking superintendent, I don't know if it was Eduardo or our superintendent, because you didn't really clarify it in the email, that you're going to follow up, you're going to ask, you wanted to see data on, can you help me out, like the technology?
I'll let you finish.
The
and then I'll-
technology
Yeah.
that you, and so I hope that you do follow through on that, because I will be asking you, like, what do we gain from that? What came out of that? So that was what I wanted to speak on. And then to touch on the social workers, Miss Nicole was my son's social worker at one point. Awesome, awesome. She was beautiful. It's sad because as I spoke then, I came to a board meeting and I spoke about how our children build a bond with social workers, the ones that do, or that are able to find a great social worker, have that support, and you build a bond with them, and then they're moved somewhere else. And so it takes away from that growth and that bond and that relationship that they're starting to build. So my heart goes out to them, that young lady. I hope that us as a community, as a board, really take that seriously. It's important. I also wanted to talk about, just excited for the new school year. Hope everybody stays safe. I still have a minute, and hey, hope everybody's well. I'm glad I got it all out, and I'll be back.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Miss Diana, and I'm only calling you that because for whatever reason I always butcher your last name, so I apologize. Next name on the list is our esteemed original first, inaugural student board member, Miss Raven May.
Hey.
All right, Raven.
She's representing her college. I see it on her shirt.
It's been a minute. Good evening, Superintendent Placencia, President Ewing, and community. My name is Raven May. I am now a junior biology major on the pre-medical track to become a labor and delivery anesthesiologist at the Spelman College. First, I would like to commend Ms. Gutierrez for remaining transparent and bringing about amazing ideas to increase the culture and climate of the high school and other schools. I also want to commend the additional students for speaking on topics that are extremely controversial and not often spoken about. I remember the first time I spoke as a student board member and I wanted to address everything. I laid it all out on the floor. I held nothing back. And I wanted to address everything that affected these students and what I saw day in and day out. I see how depression affects our youth and even students at my school in their early 20s being in college. Excuse me, it's not easy. The student forum was held during the 2018-2019 school year, and I was very active in the committee and hosting, and I actually spoke at the forum and made sure we were staying on track. I know you guys remember that. The forum allowed for my classmates and I to address the problems we saw day in and day out directly to the board, and I am more than happy to help planning and increasing student awareness and involvement in another forum because we need it. Clearly, we need to address the problems. We need to address current, past problems, and we want to get it done. I would also like to send a message to the students to stay determined. I know they left, but they'll hear this, and Ms. Gutierrez as well. From a young age, I knew I wanted to be a doctor. I knew I wanted to change the world, be in medicine. And coming from Waukegan, it's not common. And I just want to say, just stay determined. You can do anything. I'll be interning at the University of Wisconsin Medical School this summer, so I'm very excited. And I want everyone to stay focused, and you can do it. Thank you.
I do want to say thank you. We appreciate all of the public comments. It's always good to see Raven May, and I know because of the forum, it doesn't allow the opportunity for back and forth, but that does not mean, and I tell people very briefly to our social workers, I say this all the time, is that sometimes things are happening, and what you all should see, even if we don't talk about, is change behavior. So one of the documents that you and the community, I encourage you to look at, is that budget. So when we talk about when we talk about resources, when we have that conversation, it's not something that's far off. You can see it. You can see where we're going with it. And so the commitment, I sat here, I don't make promises. I've been told not from the podium. But what I am going to say is what I said to the teachers and what I said in this public forum is, if I can't address it in this moment because we have an agenda and things that we need to get through, is the same way that I promised that it will be addressed. Is a lot of times the surveys and things that have gone out is so that we don't experience what happened this year next year. It's putting the systems in place so that we heard from our students. That's why I don't try and shut them down. I don't try and not listen to them. It's because we as adults sometimes don't center our students. We know how we feel in relation to what we do, but we don't necessarily always see how it is received. And it doesn't matter my intent sometimes, because it's not about what Brandon intended or how I intended you to feel or what I meant by what I said. It's how it was received by you. And so I thank you guys for speaking out, and we will continue to address these issues and keep them moving. So thank you to everybody for their public comment. And only because I promised Mr. Viagra that I would address it, as I asked the superintendent, Placencia, to look into a report at a later date about how we're supporting the technology needs of our outplay students. Because again, and a lot of times, board doesn't know what the board doesn't know. So by you escalating and speaking up on your situation and some of the barriers that you were running into, it allowed us to address those barriers. And so while like you said, what your son went through shouldn't have happened, we learned from it, we will grow from it, and by you bringing it to everybody's attention, it will hopefully stop it from happening to another child. So thank you, and appreciate it. Headphones? Okay, that's good to know. Thank you, Ms. Viagra. All right, you two, and then next up on our agenda, we have our consent agenda. As requested, they've been separated into two. So we have one for academics, one for operations. Same rules apply. We take them we'll take one consent agenda and then the second one. So if there's anything that you want pulled from the first consent agenda under academics, please let me know at this time.
I don't want to pull out anything. I do, however, I am in opposition, Mr. President, to our continually approving multi-year contracts for these services. And I just think that that they should be on an annual renewal, and as well as that, they need to present to us, and I didn't say the staff, Don Johnston, whoever he is, he needs to come and he needs to talk to us to let us know the benefit of his services to children.
So do you want to vote on that one separately so you can ask that question?
Well, I mean,
because again, you got to vote yes or no, and I want to make sure that it's honored. That's all.
Well, I just take G out.
Okay.
So multi-year contracts are not really a good thing for services, because if they're not evaluated to see if they are if they're working, if they're not working, are they beneficial to the district, so on and so forth, then we're just locking ourselves in, you know, to a 3-year agreement, and it's not working. You know,
So I think, Ms. Hannah, what I want to do just for time, Mr. McBride asked that we not be here for 11. We got till 11. We got valid concerns. We're going to hold G, vote on that separately, so then we can go back and address that specifically. If we have agreement and concurrence on the rest of the consent agenda, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve items A, B, C, D, E, F, H, and I.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Leguizamo. Any comments or questions on the motion?
Yeah, I got one other thing regarding the PBIS. We ran into some issues regarding the practices under PBIS, and PBIS was not originated as punishment for children. It is exactly what the acronyms stand for: positive behavior interventions, and that's what it should be used for, and not for excluding students, particularly elementary students, from end of the year activities and so forth. So I just hope that we will be looking at how PBIS is being practiced.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. So I got a motion and a second. No other comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo? Yes. President Ewing?
Yes, items approved, motion carries. I'm now going to ask for items to approve. Motion to approve item 10G, approval of multi-year 3 agreement for Don Johnston. Superintendent has to read the recommended action.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent to approve the purchase of the multi-year agreement for Don Johnston at $37,800 per year, a total of $113,400.
That's crazy.
Mr. Riddle, I so move that we approve the motion as read.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Wozniak.
I had a comment.
Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I just, because of the attachment, this to me seems really important, because it's for our diverse learners, correct?
Right, it is.
Yes. Yeah, so, there should be no questions about this kind of renewal. They serve our vulnerable students.
Right, it's for writing and snap and reading is very important. It's a program we've used before, a number of programs, and I'm presuming the Diverse Learner Department is quite happy with it because they want to renew it for 3 years. And I think they mentioned last time they're getting a better price because of the renewal for 3 years. We can double check that with Dr. Bubbles.
Yes, hi, and actually it's not just diverse learners, it's on devices for all students. Snap and Read, they have text to voice, various technology to help them with writing, reading as well. And yes, if we don't get the 3-year contract, it's not guaranteed that it won't go up each year if we were able to do a 1 year. So the idea is not necessarily to get locked in, but to make sure we have this. And I believe the previous one, I know it was multi-year, I believe it was 5 years. So we're doing 3 years.
Right.
So I think is there the concern that I want to address is with these contracts. Again, I understand the benefit of 3 years. I also think having that commitment of this is the system that we're using. But to Ms. Hannah's point, do we have the ability with 60 days notice to cancel, or with 6 months? Sometimes we've been able to put that into agreements in order to deal with that. It's because, again, we don't want to support ineffective program, which I'm not saying that this is not, and I supported 3 year, but I do want to address Ms. Hannah's concern, is that when we do these multi-year contracts, we should be able to pull out when we feel like we are not receiving the service that we should be getting.
And I believe that will be a Ms. Vanderbroek's question, because legal looks at contracts and language.
That is something that we do look for in our contracts. If there are problems and issues, what are the termination clauses and options, whether this is a 60-day or some other time frame. I can confirm after I look at the contract. I can send something to the board.
Thank you.
And Mr. President, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, let me clarify something. I am not talking about the process. I'm not talking about the contract. I'm talking about the benefits, the tangible, measurable benefits that that this service has had for students. Where's the data to show what this program is doing, what this $100 and some thousand is doing? Where's the data to show that that students are benefiting from this? I don't care about the adults. The students, how are they benefiting?
Dr. Bubbles, can you answer that question, please?
Dr. Bubbles.
I mean, where's the data?
Well, so that's two separate questions. I want to make sure what Ms. Hannah is asking in order to support this. She's saying, what are the tangible benefits to students? If you get prepared to answer
or the
that.
rationale. So in your PowerPoint, there should have been a PowerPoint attached. Was there a rationale on why you wanted this product?
These allow for accommodations for IEPs. It's also universal design for learning, which is not just for diverse learner student. Any student can use these on their Chromebooks, such as voice to text, snap and read, simple English. There's a lot of different applications for it. Their competitor, Google, or it was Read and Write by Google, they've bought out. There are no other products that will do this as effectively as the Don Johnston product, such as Co-Writer. And it's been, Co-Writer's been used in special ed and universal design for learning for as long as I've been in special ed, so 2 decades.
Dr. Bublitz, am I hearing you correctly? Is this an accommodation for some IEPs?
Yes, it is.
That's what I thought.
Okay, and where's the data
What I don't know.
of success that this program is bringing to the students?
I don't know that I could pull data on success. I could pull data on how many kids have accommodations.
So I guess again, just it's a tool.
Right.
It's a tool.
And the benefit of the tool, if you can explicitly state, is that it allows, if you can give an example of how a student would use the tool.
Yeah.
So one way a student could use the tools, it could give them a voice, and they can write, and it does text to voice. It also allows for simplifying
and I
language.
apologize to cut you off, Dr.
Yes.
Bublitz, but if you have a student who does not have the mobility of their arms, then they would use the voice to text in order to be able to transcribe. Is that correct?
That is possible.
Okay, so why didn't you guys say that this was for that group of students?
It's not only for that group of students, it's for all students. It can be utilized by all students.
And it helps to build visual vocabularies, like we use for students who do PECs, like for autism. You can use it for students with low incidence and intellectual disabilities to build
Dr.
smaller
Bublitz, was
vocabulary.
that in the attachment?
No, it's not
Okay.
that in depth. And
I look at
you want to speak to that as well?
Right, because it wasn't there.
Sorry, I just wanted to reiterate what Dr. Bublitz has stated. And the students can read any text online with that. And so we use that as an accommodation for our students. And that helps support them because that is one of the accommodations for our students when they take an IAR test or the access test. Some students have that accommodation. So it kind of helps with that piece of it too. Just wanted to add that. For EL as well, yes. Sorry.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All right, Ms. Leguizamo.
No, we just wanted to say that Don Johnston is also located in Volo, Illinois. They're local.
Thank you.
And other one, sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Leguizamo.
No, and also I just wanted to clarify in regards to cost, because under the 5-year agreement, annually it was at $25,000, and under this 3-year agreement, annually it is at $37,800. So it is a difference. It is an increase of $12,800. I just wanted to make sure that we are aware that there isn't really a cost savings. It is incremental, probably raises that happens on an annual contractual basis. But I just wanted to let the board aware that comparing the 5-year to this 3-year on an annual basis, it is an increase. Just to make that clear. So thank you, Board President.
Well, while everyone is trying to negate what I said, I am just trying to, say that we need to be evaluating what we're spending taxpayer money for. And so regardless of where they come from or all that stuff, I want to see benefits to children. What are the benefits? Where's the data? And if the evaluation and the data does not equate to the amount of money, then we've just lost money. So anyway, call a question.
I know. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle.
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak.
Yes.
Mr. McBride.
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Ms. Hannah.
No, only because it's a multi-year contract.
Ms. Leguizamo.
Yes.
President Ewing.
Yes, item approved, motion carries. And what I do want to just remind too is because of these things, if there's ever additional information that's needed, always email superintendent and myself, and we can make sure that we get that information out. Next item is the consent agenda for operations. Before we read those off, are there any items, letters that you want to vote on separately in this operations consent agenda? All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the operations consent agenda as it is presented.
Second.
And that's items A through F. Any comments or questions on the motion?
I'm excited for the parking lot update at Brookside.
Thank you. And then as we take this, let's do a roll call vote.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
President Ewing?
Yes. Items approved, motion carries. What I do want to just remind the board of is we do have our presentation as it relates to the high school transformation, or I don't know what the title of the presentation is, I saw it, high school transformation plan that'll be introduced. And that's going to be relatively, it's good information and an introduction to the board. So I want to get through the rest of the stuff so that we can get there for the people who came out to see it, as well as the people who are online. So next up is purchases and contracts. Item 12A, approval of youth guidance BAM-WOW for 2022-2023 school year.
It is a
Oh, sorry. Well, I was going to say we can take those two together unless somebody objects.
I think I object.
Okay.
I'd rather
That's
take
fine.
them
We
separately.
can take it individually.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent to approve the renewal of youth guidance BAM-WOW in the amount of not to exceed $1,990,468 for the school year of 2022 through 2023.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Leguizamo.
Second.
Second by Ms. Wozniak. Any comments or questions on the motion?
I would like to make a comment. At the middle school graduation for Juarez, I saw many BAM
Stoles or ribbons.
and the students were all very proud to wear them and represent. So.
And I second that. As some people had mentioned, the integration at the schools with BAM and WOW are stronger at some schools. I need it to be at the high school. That's where our students need the most support, I think, as we get them ready for college or their post-secondary or post-high school track. And, I really think that there is a home for BAM and WOW because I see the work that the coaches and the counselors are doing, and I believe in that work. But we also need social workers, so let's work on that as well.
The word and the takeaway that I had was "and."
Yes.
And I will continue to say that this is not to supplant, can't be to supplant. And I hope that the administration hears the continued efforts of the board, and I hope that we heard from our students. And so at this time, I don't think that we should be removing supports, but I do agree with building additional capacity and making sure that the students are aware of the supports. And we've received tons of, I'm interested to see when that meeting takes place and what comes out of that meeting, and that work has to start yesterday. I just sat here and promised the social workers that next year won't look like this year. And so I know we just ended, and I feel sorry for saying that, team, because we are exhausted after the full year and then just the last week of graduations. But it's important work, and our students need it, and we heard it time and time again that mental health is our number one concern coming back from the pandemic. I can't address the academics until I deal with the mental health. And so to Mr. Dalton, I'll be the first one to purchase your shirt. We all do SEL, and thank you for the comments. But we do have a motion, a second. Any comments? If there are no other comments, roll call vote.
Mr. Riddle?
Okay, I'm going to vote against this, and the reason is because of the expansion of BAM and WOW. I feel that with the needs that we hear for the expansion of our social workers, our counselors and psychologists,
I think we have to take deep consideration for what we're hearing not only tonight but previously many times over. And so I feel that, yes, there is an and that we can do, but that and is possible only when we don't expand BAM at this point and WOW to the extent that we're doing. So I think the and has to include an expansion right now or in the very near future with that extra money that we were going to use for an expansion of BAM. So I'm going to vote no on this because I feel strongly that social workers are needed, counselors are needed, and we need to put that money for an expansion for that program as well as keeping BAM where it's at and not expanding it. So I'm voting
And so
no.
I respect that. My question, Mr. Riddle, would be, so the issue that you have is not related to BAM, it is to the expansion.
It's to the expansion, so I have to vote no.
And my other follow-up to that would be just to remind the rest of the board is that, and even the community, because I think that we're not writing BAM a check for $1.9 million. One of the issues that they had, one of the issues that continues to impact mental health is related to staffing. So again, if they can't fill those additional positions, then
Right.
we don't expend that money. But I respect your vote, and everybody has to vote how they feel.
Okay.
Are there any other comments or questions?
Yeah, and
Continue with the vote, I say.
Oh yeah, I did call the vote, but if you want to,
he called for.
You called for the
I
vote,
did.
so-
So Riddle was no.
So I was no.
Okay,
And then at your
and
vote,
I
you can
am.
probably say something too.
Well, we should get the
Yeah.
next person.
Yes, if you just
Okay.
go through the line. Continue with roll. I'm sorry.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak,
Yes.
Mr. McBride,
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Okay, I am. I'm going to vote no on this as well for reasons that BAM and WOW are. I'm not going to say picking and choosing the students that they see. But I am going to say that the ones that really need their services are not involved with BAM and WOW. And those were the ones that we were targeting for BAM and WOW to get involved in. But those are not the students. Those were what I guess people call the bubble kids, the ones that could go this way or the ones that could go that way. But the ones that was all way out there that we wanted BAM to deal with, they're not dealing with them. And so that's how come you're seeing the chaos, the confusion over through the Brookside campus. Yes, they're doing, they have children that they deal with, but those are not the targeted students. So I'm going to have to vote no.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Very quickly, Board President, I am in support of this, so I am going to vote yes, but I just want to make a comment on this in regards to youth guidance program. And I see those students in those courses, and a lot of them, when I made eye contact, reminded me a lot about me. So there's a lot of challenges in that time period, and it just kind of brings me back to like a lot of challenges that I had. But I will say that those students that are in there also need those services. And those students are being helped and having that mentorship program. If I had had that type of program at that age, who knows where I could have been more successful at. So I'm really excited to support this program and for those students that are receiving that. And yes, there are some students that need this program that are not getting it, but I think as our youth guidance program talks more with our principals and the other teams in the school system about what they're doing and the support systems in there, they can probably identify those students that we tried to target originally and are not getting those services and what it is that can happen for those students. So, that's the reason why I am in support of it. You guys can probably tell a little bit of undertone in my voice in regards to being one of those students that needs this kind of help and mentorship in that part of your time. So thank you for that.
President Ewing.
Yeah, three very brief remarks. One, so I do support extending this. BAM and WOW get the students that we refer, so we need to work on our internal supports. Two, we need more. When the meeting is held with our coordinators of social worker, post-secondary, and MTSS, I believe that nobody will come away saying that we don't need additional staffing over at either of the buildings. So the sooner we can make that meeting happen and talk about that, the sooner we can start bringing the people to the table who need to be a part of the conversation to solve it. My final comment relates to we put out an RFQ process. It was one of the superintendent's goals, and the intent was so that we would also be able to partner with the community in order to address these issues. I want that process to continue. I want us to have RFPs and RFQs over the summer so that we have these supports in place and integrated with our systems early in the year. It's because what we realized this year is if things aren't close to ready or ready on day one, you look up and a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, you're just treading water. You're trying to survive. And so I want us to move past survival to make sure that we are thriving for our students. So I vote yes. And with that motion.
I'd like to make a comment, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. McBride.
I've been listening real silently, and I totally agree. And I listened at the social workers that we do have do their.
And I'm sorry, Mr. McBride, can you talk in your mic?
I was listening at the social workers that we do have do their presentation. Now, neither one of them never said that we did not need this program.
Right.
No. I didn't hear that at all.
No.
But you said something I think that's missing, and that is why we can't reach those kids that's dysfunctional and the ones that the reason we even brought BAM here to be dealing with. Why can't we? I can tell you why. Those voices that can reach those kids are not on the menu. They need to be at the table. I got that kind of backwards. They're on the menu, but they're not at the table. If you follow what I'm saying. They're on the menu, but they're not at the table. They need to be at the table. And some of those voices are local people that you hear came to the board expressing their feelings as opposed to what they see is needed, but they're not at the table. They're on the menu. If they was at the table, then I think things would be different. So that's all I'm saying. There's been several programs that have come to this board. We had one Legacy last meeting. We got Anmount over there, Anthony's program. You had Brother Blank's program. And these are some of the individuals that I think need to be on the menu. At the table to help you out how to get to some of these kids that's saying that's running away from what something that's good for them.
Thank you, Mr. McBride. So with my yes, motion carries 5-2. Next item is 12B, approval of Asian Human Services for 2022-2023.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent to approve the agreement with Asian Human Services for the 2022-2023 school year in the amount of $424,630.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Wozniak.
Second.
Second by Ms. Leguizamo. Any comments or questions on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle.
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak.
Yes.
Mr. McBride.
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Ms. Hannah.
I'm past.
Ms. Leguizamo.
Yes.
President Ewing.
Yes, item carries 6 with 1 abstention. Item 13A, personnel for 5/24/22.
It is a recommendation of the Board of Education accepts the administration's recommendation to approve the appointments, accept the resignations and retirements as found on schedules F979, L926.
With the exception of Schedule 295.
With the exception of, can you give that to me again?
295.
With the exception of 295 and G637. Also approve the retirement extension request.
So moved.
Second. Oh.
And I just want clarity around the motion.
Right.
Ms. Leguizamo.
295.
So moved to approve the motion with the exclusion of Schedule T295.
Thank you. All right. Any comments or questions on the motion?
Just a big shout out to filling all those positions that we desperately need, and I hope that the people that we've gained stay here for a really long time.
Right.
Thank you. All right. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak? Yes. Mr. McBride? Yes. Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
President Ewing?
Yes. Item approved. Motion carries. And we have one announcement for administrative appointment.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Andrew Kramer, who previously served as the assistant principal at Little Fort Elementary. He will now serve as our new principal of Whittier Elementary with a starting salary of $87,000. Congratulations, Mr. Kramer.
Do a good job. That's right across from my church.
Congratulations. All right. And if we can get our agenda back on the screen.
International Baccalaureate School, Whittier. Here we
All
go.
right,
Principal's
yes.
got its name.
Hey, hey.
All right. We got item 14A, which is C, Supporting Effective Educator Development Grant number 3.
It is a recommendation that the board approves the superintendent to authorize the district's participation in the SEED Supporting Effective Educator Development Grant in the partnership with National Louis University, NLU, and the Lake County Regional of Education, ROE, over the course of 3 school years, beginning school year 23, that requires a 25% match from the district, resulting in a total cost of $321,804 over the life of the grant.
And I do apologize before we take this one. If you just want to, because Ms. Hannah had requested the presentation, we can go through it briefly. I think the information is in the summary, but if you just want to pull up the slides and kind of talk to what the benefit is and what it is that we're doing, and then I have a comment after we actually move forward with the motion and the second that was already on the floor. Go ahead.
Sure. So thank you. Good evening, Board President, Superintendent, members of the board, and members of the community, colleagues. This grant was presented to us rather recently, and that's why it wasn't presented earlier. So we did have several meetings internally as well as with the partner National Louis about this and about the cost and a number of other items. Essentially, it allows us to partner with NLU and our Regional Office of Education in this teacher residency program. So essentially, it'll allow us to have up to 8 residents per year. The first year is really a year of getting organized and ready. And then the next 2 years, we'll have 8 residents in year 2, 8 residents in year 3. And essentially, those folks they'll be in the classroom day 1. They'll be there 4 days a week. These are people who have bachelor's degrees and who will work towards their professional licensure and will be working with students with a certified teacher and eventually take over the classroom duties and the instruction. So by the time they finish, they will have their professional license and a master's degree. They being National Louis and Roe are focused this grant on really high needs areas, diverse learners, English language learners, primarily in elementary school, and it will allow us to not only partner with National Louis, but also with Roe and other neighboring districts here, including North Chicago. And so it provides us with a network of folks to work with, but it also allows us to assist us in the work that we're doing in terms of developing and building the capacity of internally with candidates that are on staff already or from the community, including paraprofessionals that have bachelor's degrees. So the National Louis is the financial steward of this grant, and I did work with our grant manager, our finance, our associate superintendent of finance on this, as well as the deputy superintendent and chief of staff. Just there was a lot of collaboration and a lot of discussion around the feasibility of this, the need for this, and just the overall planning of what it would look like mapped out over 3 years.
Go ahead, Ms. Hannah.
And so there's, as I was reading this, there's only spots for like eight candidates.
Eight candidates per year. We can have up to as many as possible. Like, I mean, there's a cap, but we thought that 8 would be suitable, a suitable number per year in terms of managing the match, and also again just trying to ensure that we're matching the candidates with where the need is. So we thought that 8 was a manageable number.
One more question.
Sure.
Okay, the 25% matching of the grant, right? Is that 321,000? That's over 3 years?
Yes.
And
What is it?
we're matching the grant. Why?
Oh, yeah,
So
per year, but
that is the requirement of this federal grant, that we have to offer a 25% match.
Like our money.
Our money. I don't want to compare it to
Skin in the game.
and that's really what it is that it's a 25, and there are other parameters involved. We have to have somebody who will manage this. There's stipends for the mentor teacher. There's a little, it's a little bit more involved, so that's where some of the cost comes in. Each of these residents, pardon me, each of these residents also get a $30,000, I believe it's $30,000. Yes. So then and then as well as the education that they're engaging in, the residency. So that's all factored into this.
So we're getting, in essence, if you divide the 321,000 by 3, so that's 108,000 a year. We're getting 8 employees in essence for that amount?
16, because the first year is a planning year. So that's the year where you're doing the selection process and then identifying the schools and whatnot. And then we'll place 8 residents in year 2, and then an additional 8 in year 3 for a total of 16. And it's up to 8. So I can't say that for certain that we're going to have all 8, but then the other question is if we can expand, that's an opportunity too. I think we discussed this internally, and we thought that 8 was a manageable number for each year.
Right. This is similar. They're locked in for 4 years too. Once they graduate from this program, they have to serve for at least 4 years with us. So we had a program similar to this. I think it was called NTech, and we got some really good teachers through that program.
But they're gone now.
So within, and I just want to be very clear on this too, and is that it's within the partnership too. So it could be within Lake County. Ideally, first we want to place them, and if you obviously you read the literature, so you see that they primarily want to really house those residents, have them remain in that building because they've already established a relationship. Right. And that's ideally what we want to do. And again, I think that's why I want to be strategic with having an ideal number so that we're not overtaxing we are a large district, but then if we're talking about ensuring that there's a spot for this person in the upcoming year, we also want to be really strategic about where we're placing them and with whom we're placing them with, so that we can retain them. And so, yeah.
Good. Sounds great.
Sure.
I just had a brief question, because I know that your emphasis is hiring English language learner and diverse learner teachers, and is there an opportunity for them to also get the endorsements that they need if they're going to do bilingual education, or?
That would be part of it, and that's the emphasis that they would focus on, is those two areas. That's again for this grant. There, because I asked about high school, I asked about other areas, because there's many needs, right? But their focus of this grant and this partnership is primarily elementary and diverse learner and English language learner.
Okay. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. So again,
Sure.
I think this is a good opportunity for students and for us to get people in here and into education. We all know and we hear about it all the time about the teacher crisis, and so these are the creative ways that the government as well as organizations like NLU are looking to solve the problem. I do know that there's something that Mr. Figueroa was talking about with some building our own teachers and programs, but I also want to recognize the work that's happening with GYO and Grow Your Own. And so I think as we talk about bringing people in, we do have to also make sure that we're supporting those other programs and working in tandem so that we know what the left and right hands are doing. So I think, the opportunity, I don't know if it fell in our lap or we went out to get it. Either way, we are appreciative. And thank you for the work that was done, to make it happen. But I do want us not to forget the GYO program and even what Mr. Figueroa has been doing with getting our own staff interested in going into the teaching field. We have a motion. If you can remind me who was the motion.
No, I don't think we made the motion yet.
We did. I did. I just brought it up. We did. Well, anyway, do we have a motion to approve?
Okay.
There was no motion. Thank you for the reminder.
I'll
Okay.
make a motion.
Go ahead, I'll second.
Okay.
All right. Motion was Mr. Riddle.
Yes.
Second was Ms. Leguizamo. I feel like unless there are still further questions, that they were covered in the presentation. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
President Ewing?
I do want to go, and I'm yes. Motion to approve. Item carries. What I do want to do is very briefly before we get into the high school transformation pay. I know there are very few people who are hanging on. I would like us to go to new business first, and if everyone concurs, I'd like to take items A and B together.
So moved.
Second.
A motion, and then you got to read both of them. Actually, Ms. Superintendent, you have to read the
20.
new business. Yep.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Education.
Sorry.
No.
New business 20A and B.
20A and B.
20.
The agreement to resolve.
Thank you, Superintendent.
It is a recommendation that the Board of Education approve the agreement to resolve the pending teacher award ULP 2020 CA-016-6 in form presented by General Counsel and authorize the Board President to execute the agreement.
And then B.
It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the COVID Employee Retention Incentive proposal as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Riddle to take items A and B together.
Second.
Motion, I heard second by Ms. Leguizamo first. Just quick on the draw. Any comments or questions on the motion?
I'm excited about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exciting.
What I do want to say is I know that it took a little bit. It couldn't be done arbitrarily regardless of what was kind of put out there. So what I do want to do, and we heard it here tonight, is thank our unions for being open and sitting down and being at the table and working through whatever questions they had and we had in order to come out with something that I think, again, that I've wanted to do and want to do, and I'm glad that we are doing. I know how difficult this last year has been. I know just because of Education Weekly and everything that I read, that this crisis, while it is in Waukegan, is national. People are leaving the field. I'm interviewing teachers and everything else, for banking jobs and other items. And so I know the amount of pressure that you all are on, and what I am trying to do as a board member is figure out how to take the pressure off. But I do want to say thank you, and I want it to be more than words, and this board wanted it to be more than words. And so, again, we appreciate the efforts. We appreciate the bargaining units for coming to the table, and I'm glad that we will be able to award up to $1,000 for all of our school-based personnel. So we appreciate you, and I'm excited about this. So we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Absolutely, yes.
President Ewing?
Yes,
Right.
items approved, motion carries.
Let's give them a hand. All right.
Took us the last day of school, folks. This is the last day of school, but again, I promised you that it would happen,
Better late than
and that it
never.
would happen this year, and I'm glad that we were able to do it. Now we're going to go back up. Let's get rid of the business. Let's go ahead and I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. I'm just doing it for the sake of time. But 16A, I didn't say it, but from the staff team, it's because I know sometimes I can be pretty persistent. I want to say thank you to the superintendent. I want to say thank you to Ms. Polk and LeBaron Molden. I want to say thank you to Ms. Vanderbrock. It's because there were a lot of people and a lot of conversations and a lot of work that had to happen for this to get over the finish line. So I appreciate that they did not ignore the board's request, but it did take time to work through everything. And one thing about Ms. Polk is she gonna tell me them numbers don't lie. So when board president comes with a suggestion and she goes, I would love to do it, but let's talk about that we have the relationship where she can push back and we can have a conversation and we can get to the point in where the district is protected, the district is financially solvent, but the district is also taking care of the things that we need to do. And so I appreciate that, Ms. Polk, and thank you.
Let's give them a round of applause. All right. Thank you all.
All right, now back up, I'm sorry, to financial, 16A, financial reports, ratification of the second processing of board bills for May 22 and
It is the recommendation of the administration of the Board of Education ratify the second processing board bills for May 2022, and manual check request payments and First Midwest insurance payments for the period of May 4th, 2022 through May 17, 2022. The accounts payable board May 4th, 2022 through May 17, 2022. Payments total $1,816,871.72. The manual check request payments for the period of May 4th, 2022 through May 17, 2022 total $336,199.37. The First Midwest insurance payments for the period of May 4th, 2022 through May 17th, 2022 total $2,093,840.38.
thank you. We got a motion by Ms. Wozniak.
Second.
Second by Ms. Gonzalez. Any comments or questions on the motion? All right, roll call vote.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak? Yes. Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
President Ewing?
Yes. Item approved, motion carries. We are now at, we only have 15A, which is the high school transformation plan. And again, I will go on the record, and I do want to make sure that is validated, as we had a board member that has a concern with the time. But I think, as Mr. McBride warned us, that's up to us. We talked about a lot of things that had already been previously discussed, which caused us to go over time on this item. I want to respect the time of the team. Again, when we make a request, which I have, is I want to see this transformation plan, they produce it. And so we held it one time already. It was supposed to go as student achievement. I've asked them to be here tonight. We've now sat here till 9:30. I don't want to hold it again because I do think it's critical information, and that's a decision that I am making. So I just want to be very transparent and clear about that process.
And I'd like to make a statement as well. This the high school transformation plan. I looked at it. It's very interesting. It's good, but what I am trying to say is that it is such a major change in our district for our high school, and it truly deserves more time than 30 minutes of conversation. There are questions. I'm sure that that I have. I'm sure that parents have questions.
Right. So, Ms. Hannah, what I'm
can I finish,
yeah, but
please,
I
sir?
have a suggestion. What I want to do is allow them the opportunity to present it to both the public and the board. And so this is such a major change. This is an introduction. So what I'm asking is that they present it. We don't have to ask these questions tonight. We can come back and continue to have this conversation at a future meeting. But we have to introduce the topic so that the public knows about it, our staff knows about it, and we can discuss. So I understand what you're saying, but I do want at least the board, as that's been a holdup, they don't want to release it to the public and get a bunch of feedback until it is presented to the board. So that is what this is. It's a formality, which is what has been asked by this board of me to do. So if we can at least get through the presentation, I guarantee you this will not be the last time that we talk about this item. It's just to introduce it, for us to dissect it. If we get through it, I promise you we can come back and talk about it, and there will be continued questions.
Right, and I appreciate that, Mr. President, but I'm also going to say that presentations such as this, there needs to be time, specific time set aside for this type of major presentation at our student achievement meeting, and or if we have to have a separate meeting, with the public.
Again,
to introduce this. You
again,
don't have to elaborate.
I do have to elaborate this because I want to be completely transparent. Dr. Nault was out of town, and we had a staff member that had a family emergency. It was supposed to be a student achievement. I asked them to present here tonight. I want to honor that request because they made sure that they got it done into the Board of Education. So I don't want to belittle the work that they've done. So it was supposed to be a student achievement. I'm the person who held it over, and that is why it's being presented tonight. If we can come up with the presentation, and then I am going to ask board members again, write the questions down. It is a lot of information. Dissect it. This is just an introduction. It's continuing work, and let's get through the presentation. At that point, we can bring it back, Ms. Hannah, and discuss at another meeting and continual meetings. So, Dr. Nault, I'll turn it over to you. Board members, I'll ask the whole questions till the end. But again, if you write them down, if you get them, they're things that you need to come back with. We don't necessarily have to have that entire conversation tonight. Go ahead, Dr. Nault.
Thank you, Board President. Good evening, Superintendent, members of the board, members of the community, and colleagues. We are extremely excited tonight for this opportunity to present the high school transformation plan to you. I stand before you with a group of dedicated professionals that have been a huge part of this process for the last 8 or 9 months to kind of slowly piece this together, along with several other stakeholder groups, which we'll touch upon throughout the presentation. I did want to take just one moment to introduce the team that's with me this evening. We do have the lead principal from Brookside, Mr. Tim Briner, the co-principal from Washington, Mr. Dan Hill, the principal of AOEC, Ms. Flor Carter, our college and career readiness coordinator, Ms. Avonda Fulton, and area superintendent Amanda Patty with us this evening. So thank you again for this opportunity. We're hopeful by the end of this presentation that participants and people who get a chance to not only watch this virtually but are here this evening will leave this presentation with an understanding of the pillars of our high school transformation plan that are going to serve as the foundation of the work, as well as the areas of focus with each one of those plans for the next 5 years. That'll be mapped out throughout this presentation. Next slide, please. And no matter where students start in our district, we kind of have this common understanding that no matter where they start in our district, that all roads end at the high school, and that it's really important for us to lead this work through the high school and create a high school experience for all of our students that is going to lead to future endeavors for them, whether that's college, whether that's career, whether that's military, whatever it is. We know that the importance of that high school experience is instrumental in that process. Next slide, please. A little bit of information about the high school in general. Next slide. This is data from the 2021 school report card. We thought it was important to kind of share some context with you about the Waukegan High School because of how large it is. And when you look at the overall enrollment, the high school alone makes up 30% of the students in our district. All right, so just let that sink in for a little bit, that 30% of our total enrollment are students at the high school level. We also break down at on this slide the demographics in terms of percentages of students that fall in particular categories, most recent data related to graduation rates, freshman on track rates, post-secondary enrollment, etc. And we have assessment data on there, but as we know, due to the pandemic, there has not been any true assessment data for the last 2 years. So that's just an overview of some of the demographics of the high school. Next slide, please. So why a high school transformation plan? First and foremost, we thought it was really important to establish a long-term vision for the district's work at the high school level. We wanted to use this as an opportunity to increase collaboration and coherence and alignment across all three campuses. Commit to consistent school improvement efforts that are focused on high quality instruction in every classroom every day. And I'm sure Mr. Hill will be speaking on that mantra, as that's something that they focus their work around at the high school on all campuses. And then lastly, to improve student outcomes, improving the overall performance of the high school. The current status of the high school is a targeted support status per the ESSA designation, so that keeping that in mind as well was a rationale, some of the main drivers behind this plan. Next slide, please. This next slide just kind of shows you a correlation between the ESSA indicators that are determined by ISB and how the pillars of the plan that you'll see this evening kind of align to those different ESSA indicators. We wanted to make it very clear that the work that we're doing, again, is grounded in not only some of our accountability data, but also grounded in the work that the high school's been doing for some time now, and it's just refocusing and refining some of that work on a larger scale. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Amanda Patty, who will walk you through the next slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Knott. Good evening, board, superintendent, colleagues. I'm so glad that Mr. Ewing used the word introduction in how he allowed us time for this evening. This is a very in-depth plan. It's very comprehensive. There's a lot of details that we don't want to gloss over, and so I think the word introduction was a really integral word to use tonight, so we thank you for the time. Connected also to the data that Dr. Nault referenced about the ESSA indicators, another measure that we look at around a school's performance is our 5 essential data. We have not had 5 essentials for a couple of years with the pandemic, but we do have our recent 5 essentials data, and you can see a screenshot of that on the far right. The greener it is, the better we are doing in areas of improvement for our schools, and research says that if we can get at least 3 of those areas really going well, that the odds of us being able to make substantial gains is 10 times more likely. And so knowing that we have some significant work ahead of us around the components of the 5 essentials, we knew that high school transformation plan needed to incorporate all of these pieces. It couldn't just be just about instruction and just about effective leaders, just about the environment. We knew it had to be comprehensive and address each of these 5 areas, which is why we spent so much time the past few months really digging into each of these areas to give each area the time that it needs and deserves. Next slide. In this, the purple line, I believe, is a linked document according to some of the research, so we can dig more deeply into that. But at the core of effective high schools, really effective schools, we want to make sure that we're starting and leading with a shared vision, making sure we have high quality teaching and learning, that there's personalization in that learning for our students, that there's equity so that all student groups have equal access and opportunities for success, that we have access to pathways and we are including our community in more intentional manners, and that there's flexibility and accountability built into our systems. As mentioned before, we started this work quite some time ago, and so I'll just go over some timeline and process information, and then I'll turn it over to our principals for some of the information related to the pillars. Next slide. We began this work, it's really a continuation of the school improvement plan process that the high school team worked really diligently on this past 18 months. But when we knew we were charged with kind of mapping this out over the course of 5 years, we began working with our teaching and learning team, our diverse learning team, our bilingual team, getting input from FACE, getting input from our director, our equity, a lot of different opportunities for department input. And so we began that process this winter. We wanted to make that a cyclical process so that it was not just a once and done where we told them information and we kept going with our planning. We wanted to hear from them what their needs were related to the high school, hear from each department what their goals and vision were for the high school, what work they needed to have happen at the school level for their individual departments, and how we could combine efforts to make sure that we were all working in tandem for this work. We continued that process through the spring. We had some opportunities for parent community input with some surveys that the high school team was able to send out, and now we're here in May, and we have our first iteration of the work ready to share with you. Next slide. All right. Ms. Carter, thank you.
Good evening. Thank you. Here you can see some of the reading that our administrative and ILT team has done over the last 2 years. We've worked very hard to get on the same page and make sure that our learning is the same. So you can see that much of the work from this plan is rooted in these works, in these readings. There are additional resources that each subgroup looked at that were more specific to specific content areas and pillars, but this is the overarching work that our team has been reading and utilizing for this for the last 2 years.
Thank you. And on this next slide, we talk about just the stakeholder involvement. This plan wasn't created in isolation. So we spent a lot of time over the last really 18 months really working with our building level IoTs. As Mrs. Patty pointed out, there are some presentations done with our ASAP divisions. We had some individual meeting with those different departments to really get curious about their work and what they were trying to accomplish, and really asking a question as a high school team before we begin to write our plan, how can we be more helpful for them achieving their goals as well? We did some focus groups with several of our students and listened to some of the things as we were talking to our student groups about some of their concerns, some of the things that you've even seen here tonight, hearing from those students and begin to incorporate some of those things into our plans. We also had presentations and got input from our staff, community members and parents, and then again, the various departments within our district. Next slide, please. On this slide is just the titles of those individuals that were responsible for working with us to write the plan. The team that's here with us tonight is part of that leadership team that has been instrumental in facilitating this work with all those individual titles that are on that page. We're part of the group that gave input and helped to write different sections of the plan, so it's very comprehensive and representative of all the different stakeholder groups. Next slide, please. So this plan, when we started out when we started the high school, actually last year during the pandemic, one of the things that we wanted to do, as Mrs. Carter mentioned, was to all be on the same page. We had to look at the structures that were currently existing in the high school, where currently there are grade level directors, and then we added on assistant principals last year as part of members of the team. But one of the things that we were doing some problem solving is that there were a lot of details that were being missed because they had responsibilities that were horizontal, and there wasn't a structure really to really talk about some of the vertical alignment that needed to happen at the high school. And so in some of the research that was pointed out by Mrs. Carter and some of the problem solving that we've done, we boiled it down to these 5 areas of our school improvement work that we based our SIP plan on. One being curriculum instruction and assessment. You're going to hear us talk about tonight how we're going to be, some examples of the work that we're going to be doing there. Our staff culture and leadership. Student culture, which encompasses attendance, discipline, and safety. Our student support services, which houses the work of our multi-tier systems of supports, and then finally our post-secondary and college and career readiness work. So we're going to talk about those 5 things tonight. With the research that we did, the internal restructuring of ourselves. In the vision, one of the things on this slide, you can see in the org chart, beginning next year, we're going to have this sort of a model where the very first thing that we had to do was that we're one high school, but we're represented across 3 different campuses. And so how do we keep that unified so that we're not building systems, structures, and policies at one campus that negatively impact the other campus? And so we did some internal adjustments where, of course, the principals are all aligned, and we meet regularly, weekly, to talk about various things and how we're leading and the vision that we're going. We're also taking the lead on the staff culture and leadership initiatives within our schools. But the assistant principal structures that was recently voted on, where we'll have, looking at Brookside campus and Washington campus, they're color-coded because those 2 individuals are paired up overseeing that particular area. So when you think about curriculum instruction assessment, there's an assistant principal at Brookside campus and at Washington campus that are working on that same work. And so they're tasked with creating structures and systems and plans together so that there isn't this back and forth, and then we're blaming Brookside's blaming, we don't want to get into that structure because we're one school. And so we paired our assistant principals across campuses, giving them a charge. We meet with them every single week to talk about the goals and strategies for the area of work that they're overseeing. And now, with that structure, we also have our DL and EL coordinators that are working with us, and then the recently approved department chairs that we talked about as far as that specialization of instruction. All that is to support the work of our 541 teachers and staff members that are working at the high school across all 3 campuses, and then approximately 4,500 students. So depending on the year, as you all know, we are the largest high school in the state of Illinois. So when you think about one of something, when it comes to the high school, one of something oftentimes isn't enough because we're big, we're huge. Next slide, please. So this structure that we've created was to prevent us from working in silos. So I'm going to talk about 2 of the different pillars of work that we're going to be going through tonight. In some of our reading, one of our authors, Paul Bambrick, he says this: you want to build something with lasting strength, start the foundation and sweat the small stuff. So the things that we're going to be outlining in the plan are just that. We're going to be sweating the small stuff so that we have solid systems and we're building on the foundation of best practice. So the theme, as Dr. Nall mentioned in our high school transformation plan, is to have high quality instruction in every classroom every day. That's one thing that, as we've been listening to the dialogue that's been going on, and whether it be board meetings or internally, about the structure of the high school, house, no house, one thing that we know that is true, that no matter what you do to that building, if we don't have high quality instruction in every classroom every day, it doesn't matter. And so this plan is to really address that, because some of the structural things that we know we need to do and begin to take care of, it has to be built on that foundation, that regardless of how we do things, how we physically move the structure, every classroom, every day, there's high quality instruction taking place. And so in our area of curriculum instruction assessment, we've worked to develop these focus areas, and I'm going to outline them so it's clear. One being data-driven instruction and having weekly data meetings. Here in this work, we're going to define a roadmap for rigor and adopt teaching to meet the needs of students. The heart of this work with our data-driven instruction is basically to move away from talking about what was taught to what was actually learned, and then begin to build those systems and structures is outlined in our plan. Also having a planning and instructional culture within our school where we can prevent problems and guarantee strong lessons is something, again, the small stuff that oftentimes we're taking for granted, but are we planning well? Are we delivering instruction well? All the things that we've mapped out so that we don't take anything for granted. That observation and feedback, coaching our teachers to improve learning. That also has an indirect connection to our retention. In the professional development, making sure that we're thoughtful in our PD, hands-on training that's going to stick for all of our teachers. And then one thing you'll see in all of these areas is that family and community engagement has been mapped out specifically in each of those areas. And so we're looking at, for curriculum instruction assessment, how can we develop those ongoing opportunities for parents and communities to be engaged? How can we educate them on the way it's working, what we're looking for, what we're doing, and how they can also be helpful in their work? Next slide, please. So each of these areas we highlighted an example, and this is just an example of some of the specifics within that different areas, so you can have a glimpse of what that looks like. This is a very comprehensive plan, and so all the details, it would take us hours to go through all of them, but an example of curriculum instruction assessment for just for your viewing is we identified that we know we have a problem with some of our SAT performance, like the rigor of the courses to prepare students to meet the demands of our SAT for language arts and math. It hasn't produced the results that we would all like. I think the last data point on that previously was 10% and 7% when you're looking at language arts and math, and we're trying to boost that. And so the plan as it relates to that was to create common assessments that were aligned to the rigor of those high stakes tests. When we did an audit of all of our courses, there were some things that were apparent to us that we didn't have in terms of, do our final exams align to the rigor of the course, so that students are experiencing that type of assessment throughout the school year and as part of our instruction that we can backwards plan from. Another area of our CIA plan that is going to be mapped out, or is mapped out within our transformation plan, is that content support. We know that the high school being so big, again, having assistant principals or principals also serve as department chairs is not very effective, because we're so large and there's so many things that we're trying to manage that things are stopping and starting as we're trying to have to deal with those things. And so the need for those department chairs so that we can have that departmental support consistently is instrumental in us guaranteeing that high quality instruction in every classroom every day. Another area that we're going to be able to do is to have a faster turnaround when we're having those, when we're noticing that students might be off track, having an early warning system and somebody monitoring that for the hundreds of teachers that we're supervising is going to be instrumental for us with those department chairs and our ability to be able to support those teachers. Next slide, please. Another example of work that you'll see in the CIA plan as it relates to some of our special populations or our subgroups of students, like our English language learners. We're going to have some specific strategies in terms of universal that'll be applicable to that group, but all of our students. In our GLASS strategies, we're providing professional development this year for our instructional coaches, and they'll become trainers, and then in the plan, they'll begin to train our staff on that work. We did a lot of learning last year with the College Board and looking at some of our subgroups, looking at our African American students in terms of what can we do not only to help boost the level of rigor and get more students access to some of the courses, AP courses, offerings, and things like that. One thing that became apparent in that work was that we offer AP courses at the high school, but we haven't developed an AP program where we have for everybody from our counselors and everybody else understands how to advise students appropriately, how to, some of the tricks of the trade on how to get students into some of those higher level courses, and all of that has become very instrumental in our ability to be able to reach those groups of students. And then with our DL, some of the same things, and where we're trying to provide best practices, instructional strategies, really with that lens of how can we be more helpful to that particular group of students. Next slide, please. The next area that I'm going to be talking about has to do with our staff culture and leadership. One thing that became very apparent as we're writing this plan is that we can't have a great high school without our staff. And so we made it very intentional and specific that in our transformation plan to carve out a section for how we're going to develop a staff culture that is conducive for the outcomes that we're seeking, and also how we're going to have that leadership pipeline within the high school so that we can have leadership at multiple levels. So some of the focus areas that came out of this throughout our work had to do with a supportive staff environment. So we built that out in our plan. Some mindset development, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. Having staff rituals. Some of the stuff that may have been lost in all the different shuffles of what was going on at the high school was, what are those rituals and things that we do and we're known for in relation to our staff? How do we celebrate our staff? How do we celebrate our accomplishments? An additional area there is the leadership development. Having some intentional work to develop and cultivate leadership within the high school. So again, it's not only just a pipeline for like title leaders, but also teacher leaders, paraprofessional leaders, custodial leaders, and really building that out and being very intentional about that in our plan. And then again, the family and community engagement as it relates to our staff, culture, and leadership development. Next slide, please. So on this slide, I'm going to give you an example of just the mindset work that we've been doing last year. We did a pilot group last year, and the response from that group was that we need to do this for everyone. Our original plan was to roll out this mindset work in small chunks of staff, but the pilot group was very adamant about the fact that we cannot wait, and you'll see why. So typically, our current levels of results, they're driven, and it's no surprise to anyone, but our results are driven by what we collectively do, our behaviors. And when we're looking at mindset work, and you can click forward, these behaviors, they're being driven by something much deeper, which is the mindset in terms of how we see. How do we see challenges? How do we see our choices, opportunities, people, and so on? How we see one another determines what we do, and it also determines the impact that we have on one another. Next slide, please. So let us consider, you can click for it, typically how other leaders of schools or districts approach change efforts. The common approach to change efforts is just simply to prescribe new behaviors. If you want to achieve new results, then we just prescribe you do some things differently. But if we don't take the time to address what's driving those behaviors, we're missing a key element there in order for us to be most effective. McKinsey, they did a study years ago, and they said organizations that identify and address mindsets at the outset are 4 times more likely to succeed in organizational change efforts than companies that overlook this stage. And so we take this very seriously because when we're not in the room, what's driving what people do? And if we don't develop and cultivate that, then we put ourselves in a situation where we need 100 principals to be able to manage the size of this high school, and we don't want to do that. So it's an investment in time, and then the research supports that it's going to put us in a position to be 4 times more likely. And so the way we're going to get there to those new desired outcomes is by looking not only at changing behaviors, but also the underlying mindsets that inform and drive those behaviors. And so the goal here is that if we address the mindset, the behaviors will follow. And this work has been very critical for us this year, and it has led to a lot of conversations and things simple as asking different questions. Sometimes when we look at a problem, the first response is to blame. Who's responsible for this? And generally, how do people respond to blame? Blame usually begets more blame. And we get into this cycle of blaming. Well, boy, if you do this better, then we can do that better. And in schools, if you do this better, we can do that better. And we get into the cycle of blaming. We never get out of that cycle. And it's been in the district almost 20 years. I think we've been in that cycle far too long. And so with the mindset that's driving that behavior, what we're going to be doing is really moving from some of the things here listed in red, where we have an inward mindset, where we have tunnel vision, to more awareness, moving from silos to being more collaborative with one another, moving from blame to actually taking accountability, moving from stagnation to innovation, and then low morale to engagement, all the works, the goals of the work that we aim to aspire to with this mindset work. And I promise not to preach on that, but I'd love to talk more about that at some point.
I mean, keep going. That's really it. That's the healing of it all.
Just like Dan spoke on the importance of staff culture, we know that student culture is an important lever for change. So a quote from some of our research says, "The right routines and procedures nurture our greatest ideas, giving them the freedom to develop and flourish." So our third pillar is student culture. So this is my favorite area of the work that we do every day. Student culture focuses on the environment, attendance, student expectations, positive behavioral interventions and supports, or PBIS, student clubs, athletics, safety, and family and community engagement. So what the main focus of our student culture and outcomes is going to be changing the narrative. So oftentimes we really only hear about the things that are going wrong in our building, when in fact the majority of our students are doing the right things. And so we want to create a calendar and a system to regularly celebrate our students who are doing the right things, who are attending classes, who are living up to the expectations that make us proud every day, our PRIDE acronym. And so highlighting the students that are doing things well. If you look at the next slide, for one of our examples of areas of needs is really strengthening our PBIS system. So we want to create more PBIS leaders, create a stronger PBIS team that includes leaders, students, teachers, and what the expectations are. Outline specifically what our expectations are for all individuals in the building, in every setting. What does it look like in the cafeteria? What does it look like in the hallways? We heard earlier, what does it look like in the bathroom? How are we supposed to behave appropriately in all of these places? What are the expectations? And then celebrate the students and staff who are doing the right things. Continuing to build that system that has incentives that the students want, right? Get student voice. How do you want to be celebrated? What does that look like? How can we involve family and the community more? We saw that this year with the Chuck Wagon, giving out free breakfast cards to all of our honor roll students as well as the AOEC graduates. So continuing to implement our Tier 1, including the establishment and scheduling of those incentives, working with the community more, creating an awareness and shared language for addressing the social and behavioral needs of our students. So we heard about that earlier in the evening about the SEL needs of our students. So how are we addressing that through PBIS? Not just through MTSS, not just through the counselors, but as a school as a whole, how can we celebrate the students that are doing the right things and supporting one another? And sponsored by our Culture and Climate, we're hoping to establish a parent committee. We see that there are parents that want to get involved, but we at present do not have a solid system for that at the high school. We do have strong PTA, PTO involvement in our elementary schools and some middle schools, but that is not established well at the high school, and that is part of this plan, is getting that developed and implemented. If you look at the next slide, we have attendance and truancy. We need to improve our attendance. It's not a secret. So this plan looks at what are the research-based ways to improve student attendance. Part of that is going to come naturally with improved curriculum and instruction. If what's happening in the classrooms is solid, students are going to come to school. If the student culture is improved, if we're celebrating the students that are doing things well, if we're setting expectations, student attendance is going to improve. What happens when we don't, there are still students that aren't attending school? We go through the systems and the process that we already have in place with student outreach and truancy. Utilize those services and resources provided by the district to support us when it becomes a tier 3 situation. And continue to recognize good and improved attendance and better personalized communication with families and parents regarding attendance. So we always have had the auto dialers, we've always had those types of things, but we recognize that we need to have more consistent personalized communication. Safety, we've already began some of these things and we want to continue. These is an audit of the safety equipment. We had individuals walk through the building in this last month looking at the safety of our buildings, talking about what types of equipment and things need to be upgraded and following through with that. So looking at their report and making steps to improve on that. We want 100% of our safety staff to receive the outward mindset training that Mr. Hill just discussed. We want 100% of our safety staff to be trained on restorative practices, including CPI, so that they are able to de-escalate situations and repair any sort of damage to relationships in the moment rather than having to wait for something to escalate. And we want to review data to identify high areas of need in the buildings or amongst students. The next is student voice. We have already started a principal advisory committee that meets weekly, and we want to grow that. Currently, it is a small group of students. It is diverse, but we'd like to see that grow and become even bigger and involve more student groups. And then clubs activities. We want to conduct an audit of all clubs. On paper right now, it looks like we have a really good variety of clubs offered, but in reality, some of those clubs have low attendance, some of those clubs don't meet regularly, and then there is a need for additional clubs. So getting that student voice, seeing what additional clubs and activities that the students would like to see, how can we merge clubs, expand clubs, or improve attendance to some clubs. Next. The next area is student support services. So student support service focus area is, this is MTSS, right? This is our multi-tiered systems of support. And what we want to ensure is that students have access to a variety of interventions for academic, social, emotional, and behavior support throughout the school day. It is important that we meet students where they are at, rather than trying to force our students into something that we already have. And we recognize the importance of that. So the areas that fall under this pillar are leadership, building the capacity and the infrastructure for implementation of school-wide MTSS supports. So right now we may have a few, like we talked about tonight, we might have social workers who can do one thing, we have counselors who can do another thing, we can have psychologists who can do something else, and we need to build the capacity of everyone so that if someone's not available, students can get what they need in the moment rather than you need to go find someone else. We heard a student say that tonight, right? They went to their counselor and their counselor told them they needed to speak with someone else. We want to ensure that our students get what they need when they need it, and that includes building the capacity of the individuals we already have in the building. Communication and collaboration. We have a lot of fantastic resources already for our students in terms of MTSS, SEL, academic, behavioral supports, but what we have not necessarily done a good job of is organizing those supports and communicating them. So a parent doesn't necessarily know what types of supports their student can get if they're struggling academically. A student, clearly, as we saw tonight, doesn't know what types of resources are available to them if they're having social emotional issues. So what we are, part of our plan is developing a clear menu, so to speak, of the resources that we have available for Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 for behavior, academic, and SEL across the board. Continuing to use database problem solving, using the 3-tier intervention model, which I just kind of discussed, and evaluating that data on a regular cycle. So what are some more specific examples? On the next slide, you'll see increased interventions for academics prior to credit recovery. So reteaching plans from teachers, implementation of freshman success teams, tutoring and resource centers during the day before and after school. We also know that through the solidification of the curriculum and instruction and assessments that Dan talked about under CIA, we are anticipating seeing that students recover credits more quickly because there will be, teachers will be reviewing data, they'll be looking at the assessments, and they'll be reteaching in the moment and more quickly rather than waiting for a student to fail a class. We'll have increased communication with counselors, teachers, students, and family. Looking at grades weekly, bringing in the department chairs is going to give us the opportunity to be more timely with grades and feedback for grade books. Weekly meetings with counselors to review their caseloads of students that are on track and off track, and weekly communication with teachers and families regarding on and off track. We'll have celebrations, concerns, and provide supports available. And then we'll have an increased focus on SEL for students' behavior and academic needs. So we need to increase the focus on student needs. Like I spoke to earlier, we're increase the professional development and the capacity of the adults in the building, and have systems and processes for follow-up with students. I think we've heard all of that tonight, right? That we need to have more clear systems and processes in place for when a student needs something, it's not a one and done. We follow up with them regularly, and we just need to develop those systems and implement them. Thank you.
So I'm extremely glad the high school team has embedded post-secondary into their plan, right? Because we talk so much about college and career-going culture. When it's not a focus, how can you really have a college and career-going culture? So I commend the high school transformational team that is doing that. I'm, of course, a support for them, and hopefully I can continue to be a support for them. So we're going to look at, through the post-secondary college, we have 5, I'm Pillar 5, but we have also 5 focus areas. I'm partnering with a group called One Goal through ISB. It was no cost to the district, so and it's a lot of districts across Illinois, but our core team is with Harlem School District, Freeport School District, and Round Lake School District. So we meet on a continuous basis to see what we can do to better the supports for post-secondary. So one of the focus areas is having a shared post-secondary vision, framework, and plan, right? All too often, we're like, why are we going back to try to have a shared vision, right, or framework? Aren't we, a little past that? But to be in reality, when we did a survey, it's like we're in the beginning stages of everything. So we now need to go back and set a foundation, and hopefully with their 5-year plan that they have set, the district's 5-year plan and our plans going forward, that we will have a solid plan and framework that everybody knows throughout the district, and there's some articulation from starting at elementary to middle school to high school, of course. And then post-secondary data systems and structures, right? We talk about data and systems and structures, but do we really have data systems and structures, right? That's a little complicated for people sometimes to grasp. But if you have systems and structures in place, if I leave my position today, somebody else will be able to come in and pick it up and know where we're going. And so if we continue to do that, it'll be successful. And all too often, people have things in their head, right? But they don't write them down. So we need to start writing them down so somebody else can pick up a binder and say, oh, this is what we're doing next. So hopefully we'll get that in place too. And institutional partnerships, right? We hear the community, and I hear the community all the time because I'm out in the community a lot. So we talk about, people right here in the community and still having those good partnerships. It's just not a College of Lake County. It's just not Rosalind Franklin post-secondary, but we have small businesses in here that worked up grassroots organizations. They're really the pillars of this community, right? So we need to get them involved and call them partners, not just they're just this, they're just that coming in to help. We need to build those partnerships up. So hopefully we'll do more of that under the post-secondary. Adult capacity building. Of course, we heard all tonight how important it is to build capacity in adults. All too often we kind of leave out people, even when it comes to professional development or even going out. We don't have even we have maybe admin going places to get that rich development, professional development. But sometimes we even forget about the teachers and paras, and everybody is working together for the common good. So even our maintenance department, even our cafeteria workers, we need to learn how to merge everybody together and to build capacity in everybody. Because I have people in the Grow Your Own program that are safety officers, right? We're building that capacity. Just because they're not a para or a teacher doesn't mean they can't be a teacher, and we can't build that capacity in them and say, yes, you can be this. I started off as a para and a secretary in a school. I didn't want to go into education, but somebody reached over to me and said, Yvonne, I think you would be a great teacher or administrator. And I started I only been in education, I say 14 years, and this is the only district I've been here. And so we need to build capacity across everybody. And I know people always say, well, we teachers, but there's somebody that, on the playground, a school playground, I have a one person that is, a crossing guard in the Grow Your Own Teachers program. So, we need to just build adult capacity all over. So that's what I'm saying. And we need to teach the kids too. And that's how you get college and career, where it's at. Student supports and advising, of course, establishing structures across all grade bands. Of course, I talked about a little bit about the articulation. You can go on to the next slide. I don't want to go through every little point because I know you have it here, but I'll say a couple things about the shared vision. I think I said a little bit already, but we do want to establish PLCs. I know because people are watching on YouTube, and all too often we say these acronyms, like we keep on saying, they're professional learning communities. So who's ever watching on YouTube can know that's communities where we all come together and get some professional learning and from every kind of division of what we're talking about with all the supportive services coming together. And it just doesn't have to be always the supportive services. Like I said, it could be all kinds of people coming together and getting the word out, communicate our communication plan. So that's what I hope for our shared vision. If I come and talk to Adriana, or I come and talk to Ms. Wozniak, what's our shared vision and plan for, District 60, you will be able to just rattle it off for me and not give me 3 or 4 different answers. Of course, we talk about the system and structures. Implementing DDI is district data-driven instruction cycles related to our CCR requirements, which is our college and career readiness metrics. And college and career readiness, ISB has some metrics that you meet in order to be considered college and career. I'll just name a few, right? If you're in a pathway, that can mean you're on your pathway to be college and career ready. If you take a dual credit class, if you have 95% attendance rate, if you have a 2.9 or higher, that can consider you on your pathway of being college and career ready, and not probably being having to take remedial courses in college. So that's what that means. Maximize partners to assist post-secondary work. Of course, I talked about that, bringing all kinds of partners in. It just doesn't have to be our college partners or business partners. We need to look at small businesses around here and see what they offer. Our grassroots organizations, we just need to bring everybody in. Adult capacity building, I think I went very heavily into that, so I'm not going to harp on that, but we need to really look at our ASCA model, because that's what drives really the counseling. And if you look at the ASCA model, it does, counselors are supposed to be dealing with SEL. So we need to understand why we aren't dealing with SEL when that's part of being a counselor, right? So we'll have to build that capacity up in them to try to figure out and make sure they're following their credentials and ASCA model. So it's our Association for School Counselors. So we all have to know what that is in order to graduate as a counselor. So thank you for reminding me. I just keep saying I'm going to do that. And student supports and advising. So of course we need to, everybody needs to know the difference between AP, dual credit, how do you get there, CTE courses. So many people give sometimes wrong information about what's the difference between AP, what's the difference between dual credit, and what's a difference between CTE, because sometimes we use the word dual enrollment. We're not dual enrolled. Some students, like the young lady we had, graduated with her associate's degree. She was dual enrolled. She was going to and sitting at the College of Lake County. We offer dual credit, and that is offered through us, and we pay for the majority of it. AP courses is just different than you have. It's not too much different, but you have to take the test to pass, right? We need to continue to educate our adults that are giving information to our students, and our parents and our students to know what the difference, and give them options. Too often we pick for them, right? I always tell people I'm pro dual credit, right? That doesn't mean I'm going to waive you, tell you should take dual credit. I'm going to say this is the difference between all three. What do you think is the best for you? Where are you trying to go? So a lot of us try to put our beliefs or what we think on a student instead of giving them the best options. So I hope that during student supports and advising, we'll do better with that.
And the final thing we want to talk about tonight, before we wrap it up for any questions or further discussion, is how we're going to be sharing our success over time. One of the things that myself, Mr. Bryan, and Ms. Carter, when we got together at the beginning of last year, was we really came with the mindset of we can attack the problem on the same level as the problem. And so some of the books and the research that you talked about, or that we showed there, was really us. We took the time to read and do book studies last year to really sharpen each other and sharpen our vision to get on the same page about what it is we want to do to transform this high school. And that's been a major part of our work. And so some of the things you're going to see on the next couple of slides is just simply how we're going to be reporting that data. We've created some internal tools to get some baseline on where we are in each of those areas right now, and what is our goal after year 1, 2, 3, and so on. And so you'll see that outline for curriculum instruction, student culture. Next slide. And then the same thing for our other couple of areas with staff culture, student support services, and then I think the final slide is with our post-secondary. We have specific goals that we've written there, and then the matrix that we're going to be using throughout the year to really begin to measure our impact on what we're doing. Because it's one thing to make a decision, but then how do we constantly monitor that to know how are we impacting student achievement? So, next slide. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, Board of Ed, I'm following my own rules and exactly what I've been asked by the board to do. Staff, as well as the individuals that are here on this board, have been going nonstop. I think this was a great introduction. I think I took copious notes, 3 pages of them myself. I went through it. What I want you all to do is sit with this information, digest this information. I'm going to ask if you do have questions on the presentation that you submit those so that they can be answered in a public setting if there was something that you felt needed to be expanded on. But what I will do then is say thank you to the entire team for working on this. The board has been asking, the community has been asking, what's going to happen at the high school? And just like with everything, sometimes with ANSI, we want it to happen now, but we can tell that work has been done in order to make sure that you guys are looking at it holistically. Again, keep being collaborative. Let's bring other people in, and I'm sure we'll get some more questions that you guys can think about, as I know there's a mad dash to start hiring. So let's get the people in place so that we can run with the vision and continue the conversations. So with that, I'm going to ask team for a motion to adjourn. I mean, we can talk about when, but student achievement is the middle of June, so we can talk about what makes sense. And submit questions. I do think, to Ms. Hannah's point, we want to give the community the opportunity to. But I have a motion to adjourn.
Because they would be, and let me just say this. Well, I make a motion to
adjourn. Ms. Hannah. You can't second your own motion, Ms. Hannah. You know that.
In a second.
Go ahead, Ms. Hannah.
No, because like I said, when I looked at this was good. We need community parent buy-in.
Correct.
And once we get the community parent buy-in, then we're going to be smooth sailing.
Yeah, and I think,
and that's all I'm saying.
And it wasn't negated. I just wanted you to understand that when these decisions are made, they weren't happenstances. I had to ask them to hold this item, and I didn't want to. Yeah, that was the only reason.
Can I
So,
Ms. Hannah, just real quick, I'm not going to say long. This presentation was about the research, the philosophy behind the plan. There will be community buy-in. There will be community committee meetings going on. There'll be Facebook Live. There's going to be a whole communication, but there'll also be a way to get input, Ms. Hannah. So we are hearing you, and I want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, and okay, and one other question, then I'm done. Okay, and so I guess I'm asking, and maybe this is kind of a team question. Are we talking about doing this for this upcoming school year?
Yep.
Yeah, this starts August of, it started already, but yes, this 5-year plan will start 22-23 school year will be year 1 of this plan.
Board President, I just want to just kind of clarify if we have any timelines or board action from this plan. So Is there any sort of board action in the future?
Not
Anything?
as of yet. The board voted on the department chairs. You'll see some other things in the budget that the high school has, but you'll be seeing more in the near future.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we are not stopping the work, is what I'm saying, right? So,
That's why we brought those
No.
department chairs before.
Yeah, and just so we know too, like, and to the point of like, we know the community involvement and everything else doesn't just happen here in this boardroom.
Right.
We have been very intentional about including and having those conversations, also listening to what's been transpiring. So that work is already taking place. It just hasn't taken place in front of the board. We're doing that day in and day out. Parents that are coming in, asking them questions, we take the opportunity to talk through them so we can get that input. And there are some consistent themes that we see. So just know that work is happening. It has been happening. And sometimes it doesn't always have to be a special event that's happening before the board, but we're doing it every single day because that's our responsibility.
thank you for that clarification.
Y'all say y'all want to go home, but I don't believe you.
I think we should go
Motion to
home.
adjourn.
It's one of the things, you know, those high-risk students, okay, I want buy-in from those high-risk parents with this, okay? And when we get that, we be doing good. Because everybody else gonna come along. And we need those high-risk students and their parents.
Yep. And a lot of the plan that we wrote had that in mind.
Yes.
And so, because we know if we fashion solutions for some of our students that are the most needy, is we're fashioning for all students. And so, absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
That's at the heart of everything that we're doing. Yep.
Right.
And just to close, so because we're leaving, is that I am so impressed with what I heard today. And I believe in you guys. You guys are the team. I'm going to tell you right now. Like Mr. Hill, Miss Carter, Miss Fulton, even you, Mr. Briner, and Dr. Knoll, everybody in this team, I feel like you guys are going to change this high school.
I do want to state that the 3 principals at the high school have been working on this team for quite some time. It has not been in isolation. I know we did not hear from Mr. Briner today, but he was an integral part in putting this together. Am I correct, Mr. Hill?
Correct.
So the
And we make it a point to
dynamic
mention
duo
that.
there.
We're 3 buildings, 1 high school. And that's inclusive of all 3 of us. So, yes.
Thank you.
More collaboration with everyone.
I got a motion to adjourn.
Second, let's go.
All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Anybody opposed, stay here by yourself.
I'm not even supposed to vote.
All right, peace out.
Let's go. Shut these off. Yeah.